I'm Janelle Loche, and I'm the bookkeeper here at FFA.
Tammy Yard, I am the Foundation and Leadership Specialist here at FFA.
Lori Nelson, I'm the Office Manager here at FFA.
Mark Pulsmeyer.
I'm Minnie Belselmeyer, Illinois Space Center Executive Director. Very excited to have all of you here today. Thank you for cramming in this way. For those on the webinar, hello, greetings. We hope that you are connected and it's working for you. And I'll let you get a real up-close face picture of the show here.
John Edgar, Illinois Space Center.
And we have our past state officers, which are out in the hall.
Hi everyone, my name is Corinne Harvey and I served as the 2016-2017 Illinois State Secretary. Hi, my name is Kirsten Ecker and I am married to Mr. Ecker and I served as the State Secretary and this is John Lewis.
Joey's on his way back.
Okay.
Joey's running errands for us. Your job never quits.
All right, so I suppose we'll jump to our past state officers in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, really quick, my mom's just going to talk about kind of what it means to have your child as an state officer and the importance of what we get to do.
Well, I guess, being a state officer is like a big lofty goal, and it's a lot of hard work to get there. And I guess from my perspective, and from Miriam, we see it not as just like, hey, it's really cool to be a state officer, but it really is service. I mean, it's really hard work. It's really hard work, and it's not just about being somebody important that people look up to. It's about actually caring about and serving all the FFA members, and like especially the ones that you're doing a presentation and they're kind of maybe trying to hide in the corner and not get involved, and it's paying attention to everyone and making sure everyone gets involved and that everyone's getting something out of it. And I mean, to me, that's the core of it, is the service aspect of it, not the prestige. Well, I mean, the prestige is fun. It is fun having her sign with her name under the. It is fun, but I have to remind myself what it's all about.
Oh yeah, we have a video that will give you a little bit of insight into how state officers live, work, and travel all around the state to kind of kick off our meeting, to give you an idea of exactly what all of that entails, and then we'll have our staff go through what a year in the life of a state officer looks like with our schedule and stuff. So we'll cast our attention to the screen for that.
Hey, we're the 2018-2019 Illinois FFA State Officer team. As your child considers running for a state office, it's important to understand where and how state officers live, work, and travel as they complete their year of service. We're here at the Illinois FFA Center to do just that. Let's take a look. Welcome to the lobby. Here you will find various artifacts and related to Illinois FFA, and you'll also find entries into our boardroom. So in the boardroom, a lot of very important entries are made for Illinois FFA as well as the other organizations housed in the Illinois FFA Center. Those include the Illinois Association of Vocational Ag Teachers, the Illinois Foundation FFA, the FFA alumni, and professional agriculture students. However, we do make a lot of important decisions in the boardroom. Most of our workers, officers, are done in our cubicle. So let's go ahead back there. That's where you're ready.
You don't have webcam.
Welcome to my cubicle. Each state FFA officer has a cubicle just like mine right here, where we get to work on our individual projects. And all of our cubicles are located in the same room, so we can work on our team projects together and keep checking things off our list. Each state FFA officer is also provided with a laptop by Illinois FFA, so we can take our cubicles with us and still get work done when we're out on the road. Now let's take a look at the whole office. Right outside the office is our copy room. Oh, hey, Kayla. Hi, I'm here in the copy room right now. This is where we construct, print, and mail all of our conference materials. And right now I'm getting out some thank you letters to mail to our sponsors. Let's head to my favorite spot in the office, the kitchen.
Hey, Liza, still on for logistics, 1 o'clock.
Yes, I'll see you then.
All right, sounds good.
How many things?
How's it going?
Good, what's the lunch? Here we can store food or cook meals. Well, sometimes. I think what Eliza is trying to say is that oftentimes we get so busy that we choose not to cook meals, and so we eat out instead. This year, all of our meal expenses are paid for by the Illinois Foundation FFA, and we each have one of these Illinois FFA Center credit cards to cover it. We have $9 for breakfast if it's not provided by the hotel, $11 for lunch, and $13 for dinner. There are over 200 restaurants in Springfield, and in less than 15 or 20 minutes, we can access any of them. You name a restaurant, we probably have it. There are even a large number of restaurants located less than a mile from the office. It's also important to note that for times that we need to get groceries or other items, there's a Walmart located a convenient half a mile from the office. Sometimes those Walmart trips might include picking up clothes for official dress, which is why in addition to meal expenses, we also use our credit cards to pay for official dress items. Each state FFA officer has a $500 allowance to buy official dress during their year of service. Here at the Illinois FFA Center, we have 7 full-time staff members that work with us during the week. Let's meet them.
Hello, my name is Mindy Bolsmeyer, and I'm the Executive Director of the Illinois FFA Center.
Hi everyone, my name is John Edgar and I serve as the Assistant Director at the Illinois Foundation.
Hello everyone, I'm Tammy Dart and I serve as the Foundation Specialist here at the Illinois FFA Center.
Hi, I'm Yvette Alote, and I'm the bookkeeper here at the Illinois FFA Center.
Hi, I am Patty Davis, Special Projects and Event Specialist. Hi, I'm Pat Cutner, and I am the Competitive Event Specialist at the Illinois FFA Center.
Hi, my name is Lori Nelson and I am the Office Manager here at the Illinois FFA Center.
Here at the Illinois FFA Center, safety is a #1 priority, and although most of the time we are with the staff you just met, there are a few instances of officers who will either come back to the office to work or to get materials. Therefore, every officer has their own key, as well as their own individualized key code for the security system here at the center, making sure everything is locked up and we are safe. Each night as we leave and lock up, just as Taylor said, we head over to our hotel. Each night we stay in our Armada, which is literally right over there. It's exactly 103 feet away from the office, which is just barely over the distance from home place to first base. Water in? Sure. 1, 2, 3. The Ramada is also very secure. As much as we check in, we've become on a first name basis with the Ramada staff, who takes great care of us. This side door also requires a key to enter, so we're always safe and secure inside. Let's go upstairs and take a look at one of the rooms. This is the typical room of the Ramada. Each team has up to 3 hotel rooms each night, so we each get our own bed. There are even 2 full vanity areas, which we find great benefit in for getting ready in the morning. Lastly, when we are not here at the office, we are traveling. Illinois has 5 fleet vehicles provided to the Major State officers to use during their year of service. We have 2 cars, 2 SUVs, and 1 van. We use our fleet vehicles for all of our travel for FFA, including to and from home. So state officers do not ever have to use their personal vehicles except for their personal miles when they're home on weekends. Each vehicle is equipped with a fuel card to get gas when we're out on the road, as well as several additional safety features. One of those is our individualized key fob. So each major state officer is provided with one of these fobs, and every time we get in a vehicle, we scan this fob, and it lets Mrs. Wilson-Meyer and Mr. Edgar know a few key important facts. So it lets them know who is driving the vehicle, how fast we're going to make sure we're driving safely, and also when we've arrived safely at our destination of either home or at the FFA Center. We also have an app that we can use where we need roadside assistance, we can get that easily from the app, and it also has a maintenance part. So if we ever have maintenance that we need on our vehicles and we're out on the road and we're not close to home or to Springfield, we can use this app to find a safe place to get that maintenance done.
We hope that you enjoyed this glimpse into how state FFA officers live, work, and travel. If at any point you have questions about anything you saw here, please don't hesitate to ask any Illinois FFA staff or major state officers about their experience during their year of service.
So hopefully that gave you guys a little bit of insight as we get this discussion rolling. But we'll start off with a year in the life of a state officer, which is one of the handouts you got, including our dedication and commitment form, and we'll pass it off to the staff for that portion.
The year in the life of a state officer is that orange handout that you have. It's 2 pages, front and back, and it basically walks you through every month. And it'll tell you the various activities. Now, you'll notice that it doesn't have the exact dates because this is really just a glimpse of what they do. Once your son or daughter were to be elected, if they were to be elected, then we would give you a document. Actually, we would share a document with you, and you would also have access to their calendar where you can see the exact dates of all the events that we have. But this goes month by month through the various events that our officers have traditionally worked at. And at this time, I'll just call on Corinne and Joey to kind of walk you through, because they are past state officers, they can walk you through their experience in the year in the life of a state officer. If there's any acronyms or any questions you have about any of the things in any of the various months, don't hesitate to ask us, but I didn't want to read it to you month by month. I just wanted you to get a glimpse of what their year is like. Clearly, it's a very busy year. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm Joey. I was state president 2017-2018. Or you already introduced yourself? So why don't you get started, please?
Well, I mean, just talk about your, give your experience in a capstone, what you would share with the candidates, but we're also asking you to share that with the parents today, too.
Definitely. So let's get to some perspective of how my team was, too, because this year it's all girls, and Joey's team was all boys. And in my year, I was the only girl, and all the rest of my teammates were boys, which kind of made things for a little bit different and interesting. But definitely throughout our year, it's changed a lot scheduling-wise from what it is now. So during the summer, that was probably the busiest times where we were gone the most, where a lot of weekends we might have been gone, especially in August during the state fair. That was kind of the big time of where we were gone. But we go to D.C. during the summer as an entire team that I know many of you know from having your sons and daughters go for National Corn Growers Congress. But when I think throughout the year, I think of definitely that time of the summer, going into like the first part of the fall when we're doing chapter visits. That's especially the not most stressful time, but the most wearing and tiring time of the year. That's when maybe when they come back home after their week of being gone, they pretty much like throw all their bags on the floor and pass out asleep on the couch. I did that a lot, and my dad just knew not to bother me and just let me sleep. I knew that was his piece of advice when I was in your guys' shoes 2 years ago. But then kind of during the springtime and starting this time going on to the spring, it really slows down for more of gearing down, bunkering down into FFA Center and preparing for convention in June. So that takes a lot of time to prepare for.
So, yeah, I was a state officer last year, so just a little quick snippet of my idea for anyone interested in being a state officer or anything. It's a lot about flexibility, being able to be flexible with your time or being able to be flexible and going from one place to the other. So just being willing to consistently move around on a constant basis and to live out of a suitcase. I know Mindy and John got tired of me wearing the same 5 or 6 sweaters every week, but you know when you live out of, I got a new one. They know when you get new clothes. Yeah, I know. I mean, they even recognize when you get haircuts or new shoes, but I mean, just like getting used to living out of a suitcase is one of the biggest things, especially with being 5 guys. And I personally enjoyed my entire year. I'd have to say, in the fall, but leading up to when we have winter break, it's about 70% on the road and then like 30% here at the center, and then kind of once you get to January, it kind of flip-flops. We're about 70% here in the center. I know it's a weird percentage, and 30% on the road. But once you get to January, you're more or less just here in the center, focusing on convention, banquets, things like that. But the beginning of the year is when you travel for visits, do all sorts of things like that. Also, there are times when you'll be traveling during chapter visits if you decide to run, like you see your teammates, or you don't really see them that much actually because you're consistently moving on visits. So always keep the constant line of communication open with your teammates. I know for me a big point was if we ever had a problem or situation, we didn't really meet that problem head on. So if anyone that's willing to be interested in state office, be willing to be open with how you're feeling, what you're wanting, because you are truly going to be with them 24/7. I know, like, I remember I was talking to Chase, it's like we sleep together, we wake up together, we work together. So you have to be willing to, always be willing to share if there's a problem, get it out in the open right away. So if there's no tension right away. So.
And kind of going off that, like those like peak times of the year, so like chapter visits in the fall when everyone's gone, but then even like in the springtime when preparing for convention, that's when tensions can rise the most because people are stressed out about convention. They're about
get you guys excited, right? Yeah.
And so those are the times, like, if you were to be elected, that is that time of like the conflict management, being open. John and Mindy are great mediators of you can always have the come to Jesus talks at the team, and I think that's like the biggest part that coming into a team when you live together and you work together, it can be hard. I mean, being on any team's hard with different personalities, so you add that into it, you add into major stress points. It's something to really think about before you run. How do you handle conflict and kind of reflect on that before you run into conflict.
And don't think of this also, this is, I mean, it's not just work 24/7. You got to make some fun out of it. I mean, it almost is like a job. So, like, I mean, 8:30 to 5, we were in the center, but after 5 o'clock, if we got all our stuff done today, or at 9 o'clock to 5, sorry. I sometimes got at 8:30, you know, but after 5 o'clock, if you're done for the day, I mean, don't feel bad if you want to go to Sky Zone or go just do something that I know for us, like once we were getting to January and February, we're planning for convention, we were really nervous. We made sure we were all done at 5, and we play hockey out in the back lot for about 2 or 3 hours, and then we go out to eat. Like, just have some yeah, John's laughing, I know, it's funny. But just have to be willing to have some fun, and you really need that time where you get to just kind of let loose for a little bit, I like to say just have a little brain dump, you know, play some Fortnite, do whatever you need to do. I don't know what we did too, but in the evening, be willing to just settle down and relax and move on and get ready for the next day. It's not always work 24/7. There's also a lot of fun that goes with it.
So that you can do that as a team, but I also think there's value in like doing some things on your own too at night just to get breathing room. Granted, like I was by myself a lot. Like in my hotel room, it was just me.
I was not.
Yeah. But I know like all my teammates, we all just need time of like, okay, I'm just gonna go shopping by myself. See you later tonight. Bye. Just you need that time for a mental break.
Yeah. Any questions before what we've said so far, or we can keep talking?
Anyone is welcome to ask questions, parents and candidates alike. I do want to let you know that in a little bit we will break, and the parents will take a little snack break, and then the parents will come back in here, and we'll send the candidates with the majors, and so the past state officers will then go with the candidates, and you guys can ask questions more directly to them. But parents, this is your opportunity to ask the two past state officers in particular. Kirsten will be.
She's with John Lynn.
But Kirsten will be back in as a past state officer. We can share some of the past state officers.
And Mindy from the 90s, too, right?
The 90s. Early 90s, yeah. We would like to point out my big hair days a lot. But we are happy to answer questions. But this is your opportunity, parents, to visit with these past officers before we break off. And candidates, if you have questions you don't want to ask them in front of your parents, that's fine. That's why you do break off with majors. And parents, if you don't want to embarrass,
my dad embarrassed me, so go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
So Corinne has a really unique situation. She's kind of in the same boat as Colin is. They had state degree interviews this day, and so Corinne's dad came, but because Corinne wasn't sitting there next to him, he asked thousands of questions. And you're like, well, this was really good, because all the other parents were nodding every time he would ask a question. So don't hesitate to ask questions. That gives you, like, open window. All the questions you want. Colin's not here to embarrass. So,
my dad was really hesitant on me running, and so like it was because of this meeting that he felt a little more comfortable with going on. And so we, the staff, the majors, we're here to help you and maybe calm nerves, answer anything that you have.
Another word, also, when I was, last year when I was a state officer, and I always made sure to, I wasn't very successful at this, but I tried every evening just to call my parents or at least text my parents one time. Yeah, I know, John, I know. But try at least call your parents or talk to your parents. I mean, I know for me, my parents are the kind of people where even if I'd be going to a banquet, text me when you get to the banquet, text me when you're leaving, text me when you get to Springfield, text me when you do this. And at times I was like, grief, so frustrating. But like you're doing it because you're safe and sound. Because for me, I was always at least 2 or 3 hours away. So just always having that ease of mind, I guess, for my parents to text. Looking back now, it's ridiculous that we get frustrated, but be always willing to talk to your parents because they're really interested in your loved ones and what you're doing, because what you're doing is something that's really amazing. So be sure to share that. And I know for me on weekends, I would get home at like 6 o'clock. I'd put my clothes in the laundry room. I would take a nap, and I'd wake up and have Friday dinner with my parents and talk to them for a little bit. And mostly Saturday morning was when I would talk to them about what happened during the week.
And 3 hours later.
It wasn't 3 hours later. Usually I actually played Fortnite for a little bit and like kind of, I had to do something to calm my brain down. Got a brain down, and then I would talk to my parents.
I think that's a fairly common thing. Like Friday night, your kids might not be the most up to talk.
I wasn't the most cheerful with kids. Sometimes it's hard. It isn't really. There are times when it's a long year, but there are times when it flies by. I think the phrase is every day feels like a week, but every week feels like a day. Is that a saying? That's what it feels like sometimes. Yeah, it sounds good. Quote me, but that's what it's like sometimes. But,
That provides kind of a good segue into getting some of the more specifics as to what the days look like. And so we have this agenda broken up into little pieces for each family to talk about. So, but please, we want this to be a conversation between our families and yours. We want you to leave here feeling informed and that you got the information that you needed to make a comfortable decision. So please feel free to just shoot your hand up anytime, any questions that you have. We're more than happy to answer it about our year, and Joey and Corinne also about their experiences, which will be the same as ours in some ways and might be different than others. So we'll dive right in, back down to Miriam with some meal stuff.
Yes, absolutely. So as we kind of mentioned in that video, we do get reimbursed for, our food, our hotels, everything throughout the year. And I can talk a little bit about our food reimbursement, probably most interesting to everyone. So we get $9 for breakfast if it's not provided. So Granada does provide breakfast, so we don't need to use our breakfast budget for that. And most of the hotels that we stay in throughout the year or somewhere else also provide breakfast. But then we get $11 for lunch and $13 for dinner. And it's really not that hard to find meals within budget, and not even to find healthy meals within budget is also pretty easy. A lot of times we'll just go down to Walmart, get like frozen dinners. So there's a lot of options, and as we mentioned, there's a lot of options to eat in Springfield. I don't think we even covered maybe 10% of the restaurants in Springfield. We kind of get stuck in the rut, but there's definitely, it's not too hard to stay within that budget. And then mileage, so now that we have the fleet vehicles, we don't really have to worry about mileage reimbursement, but if for some point at the beginning of the year, maybe when you would be, if you just got elected to be transitioning to the fleet vehicles, any personal mileage that you did have to use for FSA would be reimbursed as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to Shaylee talking about fleet vehicles.
Yeah, so I'd like to think I'm a professional with the fleet vehicles for many reasons. So typically about 25,000 miles is the average that a state officer drives during their year as a state officer. Obviously, it will fluctuate depending on where they live. So Liza and I live probably around the same distance with the FSA Center, about 2.5 hours. So we'll probably drive a little bit more than 25,000, but that's typically the average. And thankfully this year we have the fleet vehicles, so those miles don't go on our personal vehicles, they go on the FSA Center vehicles. As for staying awake and traveling safely while we do drive, we don't really drive alone that often. Whether it's banquets or chapter visits, it's really the only times we are by ourselves. We usually carpool on the way to the FSA Center, or we go to different activities together. So for the time that we are by ourselves, we all have our different things that we like to do. I like to listen to a lot of podcasts. Sometimes I'll call people, listen to music. I don't really have a problem staying awake, but I also do drink a lot of energy drinks and coffee, so that helps. And then typically we get used to our route coming to the FA Center, so we know where to stop, where not to stop, and we have the fuel cards in the car, so we never have to worry about paying for gas. And going on to the fleet vehicles, as you saw in the video, we have the 2 cars, the 2 SUVs, and the van. All of those have their own card in them to pay for gas, and that's also how we track the odometer, so we don't have to write anything down. It's all tracked. And in the cars, as you saw, we have fobs that we key into this little box in the car, so John and Mindy know exactly how fast we're traveling. They know exactly where they are. They get notifications when the cars are turned on and off. And they also get beeps every time we speed, 9 and 12 miles an hour over the speed limit.
And 15.
And 15. I've never gone above 9 in my life, so I would have known that until just now. Also excessive braking, excessive accelerating, and excessive turning. So if you do anything wrong with the cars, they know it. For the record, I have about a B- on my driving, so that's passing. I'm pretty proud of it. But and they do get notifications every time we arrive home or we arrive to the FFA Center. So they always know where we are all the time. And on our phones, we also have an app, with the Enterprise app. So if we ever have any incidents with the vehicle, you can stop laughing, John. Every time there's an incident with the vehicle, we can have roadside assistance. We can go call for a repair, and we can talk to the insurance company. I've had a record of 2 flat tires and a cracked windshield in a month and a half time. So I've become a professional with the app. I know exactly what to do, and John has gotten every single call from that. So it's real easy to take care of ourselves in the car when we have the fleet vehicles and we have that app. So we never have to worry about being safe while we're driving because they know exactly where they are, or we are, and we can always get a hold of them whenever. So that's never really been a problem. But talking about driving all over the state, let's talk to my parents about how they feel about it.
I mean, with the way that John and Mindy can track the vehicles and what they're doing, it makes you feel a little bit better about, you know, they know what's going on. It was brought up about texting your parents when you get to where you're going. That is something that doesn't always happen, but as long as you pretty much know where your child is going week to week, and you get a good idea of how long it should take them to get there, so you know when they should text you. But the fleet vehicles are very dependable. They're, other than tires. But so you don't have to worry about that. Shaylee does for us. We live 2.5 hours south of here. So when she goes to like Chicago area, it's a long trip. But she's done a good job navigating the state and finding her way to people's houses and schools and different destinations.
Thanks. Better report than I would give myself.
I don't know.
As a parent, you're always worried about the kids out traveling. And there have been times that my will say, well, has Shaylee made it where she's going? And yes. And well, you know, I haven't heard from her, but I haven't heard from Mindy either. So having Mindy and John is like sending your kids to college supervised. You don't have to stress yourself as bad as you would send them off to college. I had a lot of trust in them. They're like, I'm going to shake hands.
I kind of found out all the parents all on a group text now. So if I'm supposed to get a snowstorm in northern Illinois and we know somebody's traveling that way, we all kind of talk to each other, and Mindy usually updates us what's going on. But I think Dave brought up a point that there is an app, because I'm a big one too. Text me when you get where you're going, and it sounds like a lot of these girls don't do that. But there's an app, and I don't want to call it a spy app, but they can kind of tell where your child is at certain times, and that's something, if I would start this whole process over again, that's probably what I would want. So maybe in the future, that's something we can almost organize with the parents of the new officers going forward.
The nice thing is with the fleet vehicle, the officers can leave for dinner. They'll leave the FFA Center, and it'll tell us when they get back to the FFA Center. So we even know like what time they go to dinner and what time they get back. And there are times when I'm like, oh, really? We're out to dinner that late.
The other thing is, too,
And with our alarm system, with our keypad, our security system, we know when they're in and out. And so we do have a rule that we don't want them here at the center after 10 o'clock at night. This isn't a bad neighborhood, but it is a city, and there are homeless people in this city. And given the fact the pond is back here in our back patio, and we're between Walmart and the Ramada, and a men's shelter type place further down, we can't attract that type of clientele. So we really stress to them it's for their safety that we don't want them here at the center after 10 o'clock. And so if they are, we will ask, because we'll know when we look at, we get a report every Monday of the activity on the alarm system, and then of course we get a report instantly. Like I'll miss 12 texts and I'll be like, what, 12 twice? Oh, it's Sunday afternoon and the girls are traveling, you know, so that they left one person's house and they're picking someone else up, and so that is a nice thing too. I think the other really, and I'm really glad you touched on it, because of the fleet vehicles, we do have them carpool, and so too, we usually are grounded here at the center when they're having weeks when they're all here at the center, and a couple of them will ride together, and I do think that helps you stay awake, it helps you stay in touch with your team, it helps the whole big picture of the health of everybody in that sense. So. And what's that called? Is it Geo?
Life 360. If you've got a tech-savvy kid, they can go ahead and they can invite you in. You accept the invitation, and then like right now, I can look up Life 360 on my phone. It's an app. Pull it up. It'll tell me which kid is at which farm. It tells me this kid is usually up here. It says where they're at, or if they're traveling. It'll even give you top speed, which we've got one of the boys that really doesn't care for that. Taylor's one of 4. She's got 3 brothers same age. So we got one brother that doesn't care that we can find out if he's been speeding on his way home or whatnot, because it gives your average speed.
It tells you where they stop, tells you how long it would take you to get to them, wherever they're at. We don't look at it all the time, but it's nice to know that we can.
I will say, like, it was actually my idea, as crazy as that sounds, because I was sick of getting the text message of, are you there? Have you left? Are you at your next destination? That's like, I cannot deal with this because I'm not responding anyway.
And at the same time, her brother was going to school in Indy and had broken down on the interstate twice. And, you know, he'd say, I'm here, but that's a wide range of where to find them to help them. So it does help you.
It'll get down within 100 feet of where they're at. So, like, a lot of times we'll look up in the evenings, well, is Taylor at the hotel or CCFFA Center? Usually it checks in the CFFA Center, but it's only 120 feet to your hotel room. 103. So,
but Joey Karen can both attest to, before we had the fleet vehicles, John and I would be texting them, have you arrived? Where are you at? What's your status? Because we weren't hearing from them either. Now, we've done a really good job in the last few years as section presidents. As you hopefully know, if you have a child, a son or daughter, or section president, you know one of their first things is to text us when they get home safe, or at least I hope you know. And they've done a really good job. Most of them are pretty conditioned, but some of them will get texts from us. And John and I check in, and I'm like, okay, I've heard through 1 through 12. What about 13 through 25? And depending on who we had in our vehicles, we're checking in with them. So we kind of somewhat condition you when you're a section president to know to check in with us. But the nice thing is with the fleet vehicles, it's just an automatic, and that takes a big weight off of our shoulders as well, or worry, I should say, not weight, but worry.
Well, it was interesting. 1 week of chapter visits, Eliza had stayed at our house in the center, got an update that Taylor's at home. And they're like, no, Taylor's, I don't know where you were.
I was in section 21.
She was in section 21, so she can't be home. So then they figured out, well, Eliza's staying at the Heart Key, so that's how they figured out where she was at. So Minnie and John keep pretty close tab on the kids, and I'm glad for that. Has there ever been a time that I thought Taylor was in an unsafe environment? Not at all. I felt perfectly comfortable where she was at. The girls were responsible. We had the snowstorm coming into northern Illinois, and Miriam and Taylor were supposed to go to section 5? 3. So those two decided on Saturday night after Thanksgiving that, hey, we're going to go over there tonight because Sunday we're supposed to get this massive snowstorm. So those two took off. And what was nice about Life 360 was we knew Taylor was going from home to Miriam's, and Miriam's over there, and we could watch her travel the state on this map. Didn't have to call her, didn't have to text her, didn't have to make her aggravated that Mom and Dad were checking in. We just looked up the thing, and we knew where she was at and how she was doing. So.
And there was one day she went to pick Sophie up and got caught in a car accident ahead of her, and she was sat on the interstate for a while. So
2 hours.
We can kind of watch and go, oh, she's moving now. So they cleared the intersection. So we didn't have to bother her. She didn't have to worry about focusing on that. She could get to where she needed to be. And we knew she was safe and keep trash. So.
But that transition,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the fleet vehicles made it nice. This is the first year for those. And Eliza has a pretty nice truck, but you always worry about tires or other maintenance on their own vehicles. We don't know what these other kids are banging around with. And having the fleet vehicles, well, they'll roll over every year. So when the new officers come in, it's like on a lease thing. So they start, newer vehicles.
We're on a 4-year.
A 4-year lease. But at least they're bought here, they're maintained here. That made it nice.
Yeah.
Take some of the stress out of it.
So that kind of transitions into the whole, keeping in contact with your child, which my parents get to touch on.
Already done.
Yeah, we pretty much did it. But
Like
I'll send Taylor a text, and she was so proud of it the first 6 months. That hey, how you doing, kid? Love you. You still alive? What else have I sent you?
Every week, random things.
So, but they'll answer when they have time. Really, like I said, not too worried about her. I always felt safe that she was in a good area. Mindy and John, they will not send your kids somewhere where they don't feel it's safe for them, or if they do feel it's not safe, all they've got to do is say the word, and they'll get them out of there. So,
and weather-wise, they watch the weather real close. If the roads are going to get bad for some reason, they'll keep them here or wherever they're at. If they're at home, they won't let them take off and head to Springfield or anything like that.
We hope we showed that we do err on the side of caution by canceling last weekend and rescheduling this weekend. We knew that was inconvenient, especially for our people at home. But we had too many schools that were closed on Friday, too many cold conditions, bad conditions, especially in the northwest of the state. It just wasn't worth the risk at all. So we hope that was our first example to you that we do err on the side of caution. And we do, following the weather is real fun. It changes so much. So a lot of times we will say, let's just see how it runs. Let's just see how things forward, proceed, and then we'll decide from there. But we usually try to plan it out. We call those fun little last-minute logistics meetings.
Well, and I know that I've texted Mindy when we've had local, fog. We woke up one morning and she was supposed to be in here for a meeting at 9 o'clock. And I just wasn't comfortable. It was pea soup out there. And I texted Mindy and I said, hey, I don't know what it's like between here and Springfield, but, it's bad here. And they're really great to work with you and not put the kids in any danger. And, I mean, I too, I've never felt at any point in time during this entire process that Sophie was ever at risk or in any real danger.
I think it's also important to note that we do put the final call in your hands, too. So if she's at home and you're saying it's not safe, that's your decision to make. We're not going to trump you on that decision. And even when it's, do you want to stay here for the weekend or do you want us to get you on the road early? We want the officers to touch base with your parents and see what they say. You are still their parents. We're their boss, parent, mentor, friend, groupie, whatever you call it. All those things in Lord. But the bottom line is we will always defer because you are still their parent and you make that call. So if you're telling me it's too dangerous for them to get out or they've got a cold and you really don't want them to be in an event, I'm with you, especially with that because you don't get time to recoup when you're on the road and you're as busy as they are. So if you're saying they're sick, I trust you. Keep them at home, get them well. Or if they're sick on our watch, we'll do everything we can to get them well.
So I'll give an example of the story. The week before FFA week, I believe it was, me and Ryan woke up sick. Then later in the day, Chase and Rob got sick. And this was, mind you, on a Tuesday. The Tuesday before FFA week, we were all laid up sick. And Mindy was like, go home, get rested, get better. So if it comes between getting sick or being productive, just go home, get sick, and do work at home with the laptops like they said they have.
What I always tell you need to take.
Emergency.
Airborne.
What was that juice stuff? Me and Ryan were talking about that at the alumni conference. That juice.
5 Alive. Because it has all the different vitamin C. I'm a big component of vitamin C, and I'm very anti-recirculate air. So.
Oh, and that air was circulating.
That's a sermon for another day. We do try to keep, and when we travel with all of our groups, we will, and that's not just John and I, that is Tammy, Lori, the tubs at the state fair, we carry notes all the time because we know that you don't always carry them with you, and with a group as big as we are, it's important for us to have that. So.
And I will say, I think, like, between the officers and our parents, it's also nice and comforting knowing that there's connections across the state, like you as section presidents and section officers. Like, if we are in a situation where we're stuck somewhere or something goes wrong and we need a place to stay, like, there will be somewhere within 30 minutes at least, if not less than that, that we have a place, we have a bed, we've got everything figured out, and we're not just stranded. So that's really nice to know. But now, we're going to kind of transition back to time at home. So every team is a little different. Everybody obviously is a little different. So the time we spent at home kind of differs depending on the season. So it's average about 3 to 4 weekends we get to come home for at least part of it. It kind of depends, especially with summer. We have a lot of traveling and same with chapter visits and things. But average 3 to 4 weekends, we often come home. Sometimes we bring extra teammates, but lots of time, lots of laundry comes home. So that's always something that has to be taken care of, as well as I myself, and it sounds like a lot of this team, contrary to your guys' team, we come home on Friday or whatever day, the first day, and we like to tell everybody how our week was and communicate to our parents that way, and then we'll go to bed. No. Whereas obviously it's a little different, but that obviously just depends on person to person and kind of what is comfortable with you, and also kind of depends on how your week really was. Because especially chapter visits, I think all of us that first week of chapter visits, being out there and doing visit after visit was really exhausting, and we had to kind of get into that groove and that swing of things of running on really low amount of sleep and still having all that energy and enthusiasm. So that first week was I came home, did laundry, talked, but then went to bed and slept and rested. And I think that's the most important thing to do, is to understand that your kid, if they don't want to talk, is probably because they've talked their entire week. They've been with students and teachers and everything, and they just kind of want to have time to recuperate themselves and be quiet and silent, because that's not something that they necessarily had the chance to do. And then also that when we are home, so it's really important that we do sleep and we do get well rested for that next week ahead, whether that be we're driving a long distance or we have chapter visits, whatever it is, it's important that we're home to rest and recuperate ourselves. So yeah. Anybody else? Input.
Yeah, there's also sometimes that, like last weekend, me and Miriam didn't really want to go home because it was like negative 30 degrees or whatever. So we just stayed at the Harkey's house, and it's kind of one of those things that as it gets closer to convention, it's kind of based on the team if they want to stay on the weekend and work some more, or if they want to go home on the weekend and work by themselves, kind of based on the team. And kind of talking, it seems like we may be just like having sleepovers at each other's houses on the weekends, but it's just kind of all of this team dynamics, things like that, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, time at home, like at this point in our season, is kind of up to the team.
And it's obviously a little bit of a shift and change in dynamic from maybe you're in high school or in college where you're living at home and then you get elected state office, and then every single week you're on the road and you're home on some weekends. So that's good from my parents, a little bit of a parent perspective on it, dealing with your child at home or when they're not at home.
Well, I'm one of those dads that when my kids are not in school or activities, I think there's work to be done on the farm. I plan every week accordingly. But I've also had jobs before where I've stayed 3 nights on the road out, and then the worst nightmare is to come home Friday and have your wife say, "Can we go out to eat tonight?" And but the kind of schedules they run, it's just totally optional. Sometimes Sophie wants to do something on the farm just for something completely different, but catching up with her friends and spending some time with her boyfriend, stuff like that on the weekends. They work. These kids work hard.
And they come home and well, Sophie's our second one to leave the nest, so we were kind of used to being minus a child, which that in itself is an adjustment for your family, for the other siblings. I know Sophie and her sister are very close, and Claire missed Sophie the first month. She's totally adjusted now, but I could really kind of tell a difference in the dynamic in our house with Claire. So that's something to think about. When they do come home on the weekend, they've eaten out all week, and they really appreciate home-cooked food. They really don't want to hear that you're going to order a pizza on Friday night, which is really what I really want to do. But because I've cooked all week and worked all week and I'm ready for a break. But and I learned very quickly to have the laundry room cleaned out and all the laundry moved through, because Sophie at first thought, they talked about learning to live out of a suitcase, and we quickly found out that the best thing for us was, for a while, until the seasons changed or she just got sick of what was in her suitcase, we just took the dirties, moved them from the suitcase to the laundry, back into the suitcase. It was just easier for us. So I know she comes home on Friday. I mean, we're a family of 5, and I feel like I'm sometimes a family of 10 or 20, but I always have loads of laundry everywhere, and so I'm just making sure that that's open and ready to move through. And she likes to talk about what she's done when she came in. Joey's team last year, you know, all their parents are like, oh, they don't want to talk, they just want to lay on the couch. Not these girls. Now, she did, as Taylor indicated, it is quite an adjustment on them in a lot, physically even, the pace that they have to maintain and how hard they work. And so there was probably for the first month or month and a half when Sophie came home, she might go to bed around 11 o'clock or whatever and not get up till 10 or 11 o'clock the next day. And I just let her sleep and just let her go. She doesn't do that so much now. She's kind of adjusted to it. But they come home and they're tired. There have been times where we've talked about going somewhere else for the weekend, going to Grandma or Grandpa's. And we've changed those plans because Sophie said, I just want to be at home this weekend. You know, and I put myself in her shoes, and I respect that. So, well, we can go another time, or sometimes she's like, nope, I'm ready to go. Let's go do it. So we just kind of gauge off of her on something, sometimes what we're going to, do with regards to that. I don't know, anything else you want me to do? When I was very, I think it's good too, especially in the beginning. Sophie and I had some good car conversations where I could get her alone. We're going to go get more official dress because she ripped the zipper out of a skirt or whatever. Just to have that. I remember the first conversation I looked at her, I said, okay, it's been 3 weeks. What do you think? Are you happy? You know, and the biggest relief as a parent is when they look at you and go, I love it, because you're afraid. You don't know, are they really going to like it? Those things go through your mind. But so just trying to catch them for 5 or 10 minutes and just go, hey, how are you doing? Is there, is it everything you thought it was cracked up to be? Do you like it? Is it, so that's something to consider. Now we're kind of on cruise control, and it's like she leaves on Monday. I'm like, see you, love. Have a good day. Have a good week. And then she might text me or call me during the week, and then I'll see her on Friday. But
we're kind of different than some parents. I remember we were sitting in your shoes last year, and we felt like, man, we're the biggest lackadaisical parents. But we're not very, I'm not a big fan of George Orwell's America, keeping track. And but Sophie checks in once in a while. I'll get a call maybe once a week from her. But I know that John and Mindy too. That's the peace of mind that someone knows where they're supposed to be at what times. And I thought otherwise she'd be at college, going between classes and doing things. And Shannon and I really don't know a lot of times exactly what's going on, but we know we can get that answer like that if we want it. But we're just, every parent's a little different on how they handle that. So
I just thought of something, and I read here, how much time will I really be at home? How many of you guys or gals have a 4-H steer heifer that you're working on, trying to get trained for the year? I hope you have a really good sibling, because after Taylor got elected, her brothers worked her steer the whole summer and was the best behaved steer that we had that year. But literally, when you get elected, just think about this. You get elected on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Thursday, you go home that weekend for 2 days, and then it starts to whirlwind because these girls were not home. Our fair is the first week of August, and I know Taylor didn't see her steer until we got to the fair. But literally, you will not be home to take care of those animals, or if you've got some other responsibility, someone else is going to have to step up, because they were in D.C. for 2 weeks. And I think they were home for 2 days in that 2-week period. So it is constantly go. Don't think that you're going to have time for much else, especially the first 2 months. Up until September 1st, it is go, 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 and they're not going to be home. So
it's kind of like baptism by fire. This You know, the other thing I thought of that, we kind of harp on our kids about not communicating with us and not texting us. I've gotten caught in the trap of something's going on within the family. We've made plans for a certain date or something's happened in the family. And Sophie finds out about it 2 weeks later and she's really mad. And I was sure in my head she was there. So when that happens now, after that happened the first time, I try to now text her or make a point in my head. I've got to tell Sophie because life is such a whirlwind, and in our day-to-day lives, and and then they're gone, and you kind of get used to that, and you have these conversations, and just make sure you relay some of those important things because it kind of makes them feel left out, or maybe it messes up their plans on what they were going to do. So, got to make sure we're communicating too. All I'm saying.
One more thing on the show animal. Taylor was able to show the 4-H show on our Sunday night, and then 4-H show. And then on Monday we had our open show, and someone else showed her steer because she was up here at the office working. So she did get to come home Wednesday night and sell at the 4-H auction. But that's just another, they're busy. I mean, this is a job. It's probably one of the most stressful job she's had in her life so far, but it's a job.
All right, well, moving on to our next topic, which is health. Like, what happens if we get sick? We've been talking about how we have this crazy schedule and we're driving all over the state and we're going to D.C. and doing this, but what really happens if one of us gets sick? We've been really fortunate on this team that we really haven't had anybody get, really, really sick. We've had a few, knock on wood. We've had a few instances here and there where we've had different things. Like Eliza at one point had an injury with her hand, and we actually have a clinic that's literally between here and Walmart. So if we need to go get checked out for something, we can go get checked out. And Mindy has even been known to go on some of those appointments with us so that we have another person there to go to the doctor. Some of us have had doctor's appointments back in our hometown, so maybe that's a dentist appointment, ortho appointment, or even just a routine physical. And our staff is very good to make sure that those appointments are still possible and to work with our schedule to fit those in. So usually we try to schedule them on a Monday or on a Friday so that it's not like we're having to leave in the middle of the week, but then you're home on that weekend, so you just stay Monday. I know I'm in February, I have an orthodontist appointment that I have to go to, so it's on Monday morning, I'm going to go to my orthodontist appointment, and I'm just going to come into the office late that day, and it was no issues, no questions asked, so that we can get those things taken care of. Anything else to add?
Yes, don't lose your...
We know that, if something does happen to us and we do start getting sick throughout the week, I think there was a day that Taylor was starting to feel not so well after National Convention, and it's no questions asked. Just go over to the Ramada, take a nap if you need one, do what you need to do to get better, because that's what makes us able to keep this schedule as long as our health is there with it. I know there's a day at National Convention that I started feeling really bad, that we made jokes about that recirculated air, but really you start to get sick sometimes when you're in those scenarios, seeing that many people, going to that many high schools. I mean, we each visit around 80 high schools, so at some point in there we're bound to get some kind of sickness that's going on. So I know that day at National Convention, they're very understanding and always clear to us that health is our number one priority, and it's never a question that if we're not feeling well, that to take those steps to get better, or if we're not feeling well, starting to not feel well, to take those precautions to keep that from getting worse.
Making eye contact with Taylor, I just want to reiterate, and when we say go to the hotel and get some sleep, we mean go to the hotel and get some sleep. Don't push it another hour or two. We know when you're going out.
And before she left that morning, I said, you just go see Mindy, and I think you probably need to go stay at the hotel and sleep this morning. No, I have to work. And then when she told me Mindy forced me to the hotel, I said, because she's a mom and she knows. I knew you'd get her there.
Everybody here at the center is just an extra set of parents, and they are literally looking out for us in every way, shape, or form. So when I was on the couch not feeling very well, My teammates went and got me soup, and Mindy came in and she goes, "You're going to the hotel." Now, trying to argue my point, and I had to get work done. And no, I lost that when I took balance class, and they totally understood that. And not only them as me, the staff, but also my teammates, which is really important to be understanding that that will happen, and it's bound to happen. But they're there to support us and watch for it.
And us as a team, we're also like very understanding and very precautionary that if one of our teammates goes down, we want to make sure that like everybody else does it too, because that's really important. So since we do have those 3 hotel rooms, and we are a little bit unique that we can like alter who has their own room every week. Like Corinne's team wouldn't have been as able to do that because they were 3 boys and 1 girl, but since we were all girls, if let's say Taylor came in that week and she said, "I'm not feeling well," she's more than likely going to have her own hotel room that week so that the rest of us don't get sick along with her. So we kind of work through it as a team, and we balance each other out. We know that if one of us goes down, the other teammates are going to be there to pick up the extra work, and like we'll get through it.
I'm really glad that Taylor brought up that all the staff looked out for students, or for our officers, because there are times when John and I are out at events and meetings either with a set of officers or a couple of officers, or at events and meetings on our own, and I will say handily all of our staff looked out for them, and then they let us know, Shaylee's sick, don't let her try to pull one over on you. And that goes for everyone. The girls did a great job creating that video, and you had the opportunity to see Lori's here with us today, Tammy's here with us today, Jeanette's here with us today. Patty is actually, her mother recently passed away, and they're trying to take care of the house details today, so Patty is committed otherwise, but every one of our staff looks out for them. And Sky is our competitive event specialist. She's been a student worker for us and new to the center, but we look out for her too. She's kind of in that role, but she also pays attention and knows how important everyone is. Everyone is equally important to the success of this office, and so we do look out for one another. We're small enough that we can be a family, we spend enough time together that we are a family, and yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up too. Thank you.
Alright, so now me and Shaylee are going to talk about the preparation for college, because when I was preparing for the election process, things like that, I just graduated high school, so I had my eggs in 2 different baskets of being elected a state officer or going to college. And something that is important is to remember, even though you are preparing to be in the election process, to become a state officer, you also should be preparing to be a college student as well, because if you get to June and you are unsuccessful in becoming a state officer, then there's no more time to scramble to try to get into college or all those college plans. So it's overwhelming that you have to kind of be on 2 different paths at the same time. But for me, I felt like it was a good transition, because no matter what, I had big plans for me coming up. Because I graduated high school, my plans were going to U of I, either going to U of I or being a state officer. And whatever it is, going to community college, all those types of things, you need to have something else, and you will have something else, especially if you're graduating high school and going on to that. So I think that's important to remember, not to put all your marbles in one basket, and to really be focusing on college. And they say prepare for state office, plan for college, prepare for state office, which is really important to remember. So that's kind of my perspective from going from high school, but Shaylee had a year of college under her belt, so she can talk about that.
Yeah, before I really get into it, the biggest thing that I want to hit on is that you have to plan for college. You have to plan for college. If you're not already in college, you have to have everything set in your future, so that day of, when your plans change and you're back to just college, you're ready to fall back on that. I was already in college for a year, so it was really easy for me to sign up for classes, have everything paid for, be ready to go back to Kaskaskia for that 2nd year. And may I say that all of the professors, whether it's the university or community college, are very supportive of the entire process and supportive of SFA. So for me, it was very easy because my professors had texted me as soon as I got elected and say, we'll take care of everything. So I didn't have to do anything. They dropped my classes for me. They deferred my year. They deferred my scholarships. They took care of everything, so I didn't have to worry about it, and I could focus on FFA. But it was an easy transition to plan for college while still preparing for state office, because all I had to do was sign up for those classes again. So for me, the transition was easy, but it is just making sure that you do plan for college, because it is just one day that everything is changed back to one or the other. So we have to make sure that we are prepared.
Yeah, and all of the schools in Illinois, we've had state officers
defer a year from everywhere, and they're always very supportive of the FFA, and it's an easy process to just defer your year of school, and then you already have all that stuff already done. So going to U of I next year, I just got to click a button. I'm all good. I've already done it all last year when I was preparing for state office planning for college, so it's important.
Same with scholarships too. A lot of y'all are high achievers and looking at some scholarships, and they'll hold those scholarships for you. So if you've earned that scholarship, you're not going to walk away from it and have to reapply. Most of them, I think, are on hold, aren't they?
Yeah. So most of us ended up getting all of our scholarships held. There was a couple of us that had one here or there that might have been a more local one, or one that didn't really understand what we were doing that didn't get held. Some of them, they just said reapply next year. You'll probably get it again, but just reapply. So for the most part, we really didn't lose any scholarships.
And it's really nice because Mindy puts together a letter about what this year all entails, because kind of, but definitely not all of it. So she puts really well-written letter together that we can present to whoever that scholarship is from or that college, and kind of show them and explain to them so that they kind of are on the same page. Maybe if they're not as knowledgeable about FFA or what this position is. And that definitely, I think, helped all of us retain a lot of those scholarships. Like, all of mine were thankfully saved for that next year, but it's just that letter helps getting everybody on the same page. Do you have a question, Mr. Sappington?
It was answered.
Awesome, perfect.
Thank you.
But my dad's going to talk about my perspective, but how it's like having me a year off of school.
I have no doubt that the young people in this room are ready to go to college. Your goals you've reached for FFA, I think you're ready to launch your life. But if you can take a year off of college and devote it and serve the FFA, the education and the experience you're going to get is worth any semester or 2 semesters of college, in my opinion. The things that Eliza comes home and tells me and the things she's done, being a dad just makes me so proud. And looking back on this, after she graduates and continues her life, and look back and, we all think about resumes, what you're going to put on the resume. And if you, even a section president is worth something on a resume. And if you can be a state officer and go to U of I or any other state school, just holds a lot of water, holds a lot of weight. So having that time to do that, I mean, they've been everywhere. They've been to Washington, and they've been back to Washington again, visiting schools by themselves and getting up in front of a whole class of a high school and speaking. It's amazing what your kids can do. And sitting here, I'm a super proud dad for sure.
I'd add, too, when you're young, time seems a lot slower. When you're older, you start putting things on the calendar 2 or 3 years down the road. When I was your age, I thought I wouldn't have given up a year for any, 6 months. I mean, you're wanting to get on. You do what you're going to do. And but you get older, you look back, and you'll never regret it.
From a student's perspective, I don't know about my other teammates, often get asked by people that find out just about exactly what we're doing. They say, is that really worth taking an entire year off of college for? And I always tell them 100,000% that if I could go back, there's not a single decision that I would have made differently. The experiences that we get during this year and how much we learn and grow, and that we've even noticed in ourselves, it's just something that you can't replace.
You just said it. When you grow, I've seen Eliza grow so much this year. She was mature to begin with, going into her freshman year at U of I, and now that she can go as a freshman, I always joke around. I always see those bumper stickers that says, "My daughter and my money go to whichever state school you want to tag on it." I'm not going to have a problem with that another year. I'm going to be like, she's going to go to school. She's going to be driven just like she does when she works her way for the FFA. And it's like, look out, there she goes. So.
I've got an SOE kid. Actually, I've got 2 of them from Lakeland College, and I sat with Ryan Orick. And if anybody knows anything about Lakeland, Ryan's he's the head dog, I guess you could say. And he said, Dave, how's Taylor doing? I said, she's doing great. He says, you know what? He says she will probably learn more in the next 12 months than what she will learn at Lakeland College this year because of all the contacts, all the presentations, all the workshops. Everything she's been exposed to is going to be so much more than anything we could offer at Lakeland. So that's for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's all about the people that you know, and the amount of industry friends that we've made this year and connections that we made are really going to help us in our future when it comes to future careers and different things like that. So that's also something that's important.
A lot of networking, that's for sure.
And something we talked about this week is that people are going back to college in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. We have our whole lives to go to school, so deferring just 1 year for this is totally worth it because this is the only time that you can run. This is the only time you can go through selection committee, possibly go on stage to give your speeches, and this is the only year that you can defer a year of college to be a state officer and grow so much. So it is a hard decision to make, but in the long run, it's an easy decision to make because this is only opportunity and the only time you can do this, and you can go to school the rest of your life.
Yeah, I think Shelly said it right. I remember sitting in those seats thinking, I'm going to be a year behind than everybody else in my class I'm graduating with. At the end of the day, when you look back, it doesn't even matter because all these experiences you are gaining, and you have all your life to do college and careers and all things like that. So that's something that I did worry about, and now looking back, I'm like, I shouldn't even have that thought in my head, you know.
And kind of going off that, being 2 years out, I feel like in some aspects compared to like students that I'm with, I feel a little more ahead for something because I've had those experiences because of state office. But you guys are hitting on the head with the connections. A lot of places that I interviewed with for internships, the internship that I have for this summer, it's because of the connections I made during state office that I got to know people at Illinois Farm Bureau, at Grow Mark. You got to go to these big corporate offices and you stood out to them because you were holding this big leadership position. And so I really feel like this puts you at an advantage once you're out of state office type of thing of not just about jobs, but who you are as a person with the growth, and you do things that not many people our age or anyone does a lot of times.
And to piggyback off piggybacking, not only do you network with industrial friends, but also past state officers are willing to help you out as well. I know for me, past state officer by the name of Chuck Benson, I met at AFA, and he works with BASF in North Carolina, and he's a past state officer. He was state officer when you were section president. He remembers you, Ms. D.
Yes.
And I told him who I was, and we ended up talking about 20, 30 minutes about FA, and it turns out we went to the same fraternity and everything. And he gave me his business card and said, if you ever want to work for BASF, give me a phone call. Because you never know, everyone says you never know who you're going to see with like fraternities and things like that, but you also never know when you're going to find a past state officer that's going to be able to help you out. So.
And even
Go ahead.
even like we meet state officers from even other states, and just the amount of knowledge that we gain from learning about FFA, learning about agriculture, and learning about how other states are run, like that knowledge is extremely, extremely valuable just to have a broader perspective than just what goes on here in Illinois, just what goes on within our state, but also what's going on all across the nation and what leaders like us are doing in other states and in other scenarios. We're about to take a little bit of a different turn, and we're going to start talking about the process of running for state office. Before we jump into that, does anybody have any questions that we could clear up now about traveling, being home, not at home, health, how our meals and reimbursements work? Are there any questions that we can answer about that?
Do you have any questions? No?
All right. Well, then we'll move right into the process of running for a state office. So the process of running for state office starts off with your candidate application and selection committee. So the candidate application is going to have some questions on it about why you wanted to run for state office in an essay, and various other general information questions on it. And you turn that in along with your candidate resume, which we provide resources, some of which are in your packet and some of which candidates will give you later on when we split the two groups between parents and candidates. But all that leads to selection committee. And in selection committee, each candidate in one day will give a prepared speech, an impromptu scenario, 2 tests, a letter writing activity, new this year, a facilitation evaluation, a group activity, and a general interview. And through that selection committee, you'll do each one of those rooms. Each room lasts 10 to 15 minutes that you'll be doing those various things. And you'll be scored on that. And based on all of our candidates, the top 10 candidates will be selected to run on stage at Illinois State FFA Convention. And later on, when we split the candidates in half, we will actually give all of the candidates the rubrics that will be used in selection committee, as well as example scenarios for what each one of those rooms could look like, to give you some kind of idea as to what that selection committee day is going to look like. And my dad's telling me that if you're going to selection committee, don't forget to pack your shoes, because that was me. I came to selection committee. I actually stayed the night in Springfield because I was one of the first ones to go through selection committee the next morning. I woke up that day. I was really, really nervous getting dressed when I realized I didn't have shoes for official shoes. So I went to Walmart, and they had one pair left in my size. So that's my dad's piece of advice is if you're going to selection committee, don't forget your shoes.
Don't forget anything. Yeah, I will say no matter if you do make it through that top 10 or you don't, going through selection committee alone is an accomplishment, and you learn so much about yourself in that process. I remember getting out after being done in the last room, and I was like, holy cow, like I just completed it. Like that, the stress was still there, a little bit of a relief though, but it was a realization that wow, like I could do that. Like I actually just did these speeches, did these interviews, and you kind of just got to realize that no matter what you're going to learn, you're going to grow from this experience. It just kind of depends on what path it's going to take you.
Yeah, I definitely like to echo what Taylor said. I tried to keep the mindset when I was running, not necessarily that, like obviously I wanted to get elected, but that wasn't necessarily my main goal. My main goal was to be proud of what I did and what I could accomplish. So when I went through selection committee, I was proud of how I performed, and I walked out there not knowing if I made it through the top 10 or not, but I was like the happiest that I've been in a very long time just because I knew that I could do that. Like I was capable of doing those things. So no matter whether I made it to the top 10, I made it on stage, it was still something valuable that taught me a lot about myself and gave me a lot of self-confidence, for sure.
I think from a parent's perspective during that selection committee time, you're really watching your kids experience a lot of stress. And that can be kind of stressful for you because we kind of take that on a little bit. So probably one of the most intense weeks I remember in a long time, other than the actual elections at the convention, but it was pretty intense. And you got to remember that if your child is a high school senior, you're doing school, you're planning graduation parties, you're trying to fill out scholarship applications, you're preparing them for college, looking at housing, you're juggling proms going on, So, and you've got to do those things. So just, I guess what I'm saying is be prepared to be very present because, and Sophie touched on, I'm so glad that we did it. She was in one of the first groups to go through selection committee, and I said, you know what, let's just go over the night before, the day before, and that way we're not stressed out. We live about an hour and a half from here, and so glad we did it. So if your child, if you can do that, and your child's one of those, it was great for us. It took a little bit of the stress out of the morning, but.
And Taylor was the last group to go last year, so Taylor took her, I guess you could say your 4-H advisor, 4-H leader and friend up here. So she had people in the car with her on the way up. She wasn't driving by herself. She was bouncing things back and forth, practicing her speech that I think I could memorize. Because it is quite stressful, but the flip side of that is I'm confident she could give a speech to anybody after that week, and after this past 6 months, I'm not too worried about her at all.
We joke that's the ultimate job interview. It really is like more than you will ever go through probably for a job in your life. It's just the fact that you put yourself out there and do that, you've accomplished something amazing, and you'll go far just for that. And it's an experience. No matter what happens, it's a good experience because you learn from it.
And I felt like, I mean, judging from other activities that my other children have been in and other things that Sophie's done, I feel like the process is very fair and unbiased as a parent. So I never really felt like, gosh, she didn't have a chance because of, or, whatever. It's a very thorough and very fair process. And I think it's something that the FFA can be proud of, that we have that kind of a process.
And you hear us talking about how it's a lot to manage, especially like Shayla, I don't know how it was in college, but when you're a senior in high school, because that is a time in your life that there are so many different things going on that are even happening maybe even on that day of selection committee. That is a lot to manage, and candidates, when we break out to just meet with you, we'll tell you guys a little bit more about how we dealt with that time and what we did to keep ourselves organized, to make sure that we were prepared for selection committee, yet we were still meeting all those other deadlines in our life with graduation and scholarships and things like that. So I feel like I know when I was sitting in your shoes, I was feeling extremely overwhelmed about how stressful it was going to be. So when we meet with you a little bit later, we'll give you a little more insight into what that looks like and what are some ways that you can help yourself during that time. But after selection committee, is the state convention elections, and right before state convention elections happen, the candidate mentor program is introduced, and actually Corinne was my mentor as I was running for state office after I made the top 10, where each candidate is paired with a past state officer that has been successful, that's there to help them with their speeches, that understands exactly what they're going through having to give the speech at state convention, how stressed they are, how important this is to them. It's somebody that really understands what they're going through and is really there for your student. So, Ms. Bunselmeyer, you want to touch a little more on that?
Yes, I do. So one of the nice things about the mentor program is we ask our past state officers who of you would be willing to be a mentor. And really our only requirement, we have two basic requirements. One, you want to be, you sincerely can dedicate to a candidate to be there for that candidate. And two, we want you to be in state, somewhat geographically close to, if you can be, to our candidates. And then we'll have our list of past state officers who are interested in being mentors. And then we give that list to the candidates and say, give us your top 3. And then we take their top 3 and we take geographic location and availability and we match them up. And when everybody preps Joey, not everybody's going to get Joey. So that's one of the things you need to understand too. You know, really look at the whole list and think about your personality and what you need. And that mentor is really there for them. It's more like a life coach through the process. It's not necessarily the person that's going to help you write your speeches or help you with your poster. But, if you want feedback on a speech or you want to bounce ideas off of them, that's great. But it's really more liking you through the process. And we're asking our mentors to be in contact from the time that they're signed up or they assign their candidate. From the time of that time to convention, we want at least 3 points of contact. Check with them how they're feeling about their convention speeches, is their poster ready, where are they at with things, and then the next time they touch base is are all of your college plans ready to go? You're good to go with Plan B if it happens, and then where are you at with your convention planning? And then that final time is just, okay, we're coming up on it. Tomorrow is next week. You're calling out. You're moving out on Sunday. How do you feel? That's the minimum that we ask for from our mentors to reach out to our candidates. Sometimes we've been very successful with that, and it's been far more than that. Sometimes it's a stretch to get it done even those 3 times. And our mentors are typically college age or maybe a little bit older than that. And so sometimes they're not, they have other things going on in their commitment slides. But we've been working very hard to work on this mentor process so that they're there for our candidates through all of it. Most important part from my standpoint, from the mentor standpoint, is that mentor at state convention becomes the parent. It is the point person for the parent. If Corinne was Sophie's mentor, then Corinne is Mark and Shannon's mentor.
And she was awesome.
And she's there for you to say, this is where you sit, this is where the bathrooms are, this is where you go to get fresh air, this is what's going on, and they walk you through the process. And then the minute the state officer is elected, then that mentor knows where to take them, because when you talked about how that first 2 months fly, that day they get elected, your opportunity to see them is very minimal. They'll go straight from the stage. We barely get to say, hug you, love you, cry, wipe off your tears, and because they go straight to the press room and they start getting interviewed and photos, and it's boom, 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 and there's very little time with the parents. But the mentor makes sure the parents and all the other extended family and friends that want to see her, quick opportunity or who see them, they can. And the mentor is really the parents to go first and during the convention time. And they can talk to the parents about, well, when they ask this impromptu question, they have a minute to respond, which we've told you that before, but in the moment, you don't remember all the stuff we've told you. In the moment, you're nervous for your child, and that mentor is there to help you with those nerves and help you guide you through that process. The other side of that coin is if your child does not get elected, the mentor knows where to take you. We have locker rooms downstairs and places where mentors can take a candidate and their family, and they can have that time to process. And there are tears of joy and there's tears of sadness. That's the hardest part about elections every year. Elections is very nerve-wracking for our staff, for our parents, and for our candidates all. And but we try to provide as much privacy as we can. And the mentor then because our mentors to the point through convention are all past state officers, then we have people who ran for state office and who were not successful themselves, and they are there too to be mentors to the candidates that weren't elected. And then we start what we call our debrief process with our whole team of 30 that's transitioning out. They start to transition out with not only past state officers, the past candidates who were not successful. And when I say we're not successful, they were only not successful in running for state office. They're exceptionally successful people. And I think that's one of the things that we like to emphasize too. Your time of being a part of the SFA family never ends. And when you get a moment to, and I do believe, I hope that each of you take the time to read this. We did ask one of the candidates last year, we did ask Kylie Miller's parents to be with us, and they couldn't be with us, so they wrote up their synopsis and their advice, and I think it's phenomenal. I think it's fantastic. And the only thing they didn't do was sign off, and so I said I'm just going to put Kyle and Missy Miller, parents of 2018 candidate Kylie Miller, and I hope you noticed that Kylie is also our summer intern this summer, and hopefully a future ag teacher. You can try to cast us aside, but we're like a bad penny. We're going to keep coming back in your life all the time. So, but that's a little bit, a glimpse of the mentor process. Our past state officer alumni affiliate has a meeting this Thursday night. It's a conference call, Joe, so make sure you get that information. But they will all talk about the mentor process, and the mentor process is one that I think it's still developing. It's still, every year, the mentors, the candidates, both successful and not successful, have given us tips and advice on to make the process better, and we're excited about how that has evolved. Mm-hmm. Can I answer any questions about the mentor process on either side of the results of the election? Great, thanks, Bill.
Yeah. So moving on to convention elections and what that looks like. So we just talked about how we have these mentors, they're at convention for our parents and for us, but there's also a lot of other aspects going on to convention elections that day because it is such a fast day. It starts at, I think we got there at 7:30 in the morning, and before noon, the elections was over, and that whole time frame was a complete blur. So do we have Taylor's election video?
I would like to say I was gone sitting at my school board, so I was the one that got things slowed.
Why they chose
Because I was gone.
She was gone.
They chose her.
She couldn't say it.
Yeah. So we have a little bit of a video that we're going to pull up. It's going to give you a little bit of a synopsis of like what the election looks like so that you can get some kind of idea of like what's actually going on stage in this election to get a really, really good picture of it. But until then, we can talk about the process timeline, the checklist, and our commitment form. So Taylor, do you want to do process timeline?
So the process timeline, all the candidates will come in on Sunday before convention, and we'll start taking things specifically from the FFA Center and from the storage unit, taking them over to the convention hall. And Monday as well is spent prepping for convention, setting everything up, as well as the candidates are given stage time in that Sunday to Monday range where they get to actually practice on stage, kind of getting a feel for things, kind of making it a little bit more real at the time. And then Tuesday comes and the candidates introduce themselves and who they're representing, and then they also go into answering that pop question that Mindy mentioned just a little bit ago, and that impromptu question. Wednesday, candidates do a mid-session. It's super chill compared to the rest of the convention, I would say. And then Thursday is the elections where they actually happen when we combine and everybody of the delegate floor votes in the new members, where you get to watch this video.
So this video is so excited. Taylor's kind of basically for every office. Obviously, there's 5 offices, and for each office, you give a speech, and if you're unsuccessful in getting, like, the president, then you go on to do vice president's speech. And Taylor, as our treasurer, that's the final office, so this is, I just did the little snippet of the last sentence of her speech, so we didn't have to watch the whole thing, because I know she doesn't love reliving it, but it's her final speech, and then her announcement of getting office, and then also I believe I put in when we were all brought out for the first time as a major state officer team. So we're going to get anxiety from watching this, but
Do it. How long is it? It's time to read, Joe. So.
When we Illinois FFA members work together, we will accomplish so much more. Illinois FFA, don't slam the door on me like my brothers did. Instead, elect me, Taylor Hartley, as your 2018-2019 Illinois FFA State Treasurer.
Hardy's were on edge here, but yeah, everyone does no matter what you decide to make your own class. The majority has not been reached.
Every officer must be elected by a majority vote, and the majority vote has not yet been reached.
Yeah.
Candidates, the only way you have to take charges. And you will be voting on the office of state education treasurer. And the order there was on the ballot are Clayton Blooming and Taylor Hartsey.
Oh my God.
Would my fellow officers please join me on stage? Must be elected by majority vote, and majority vote has been reached for this office.
Also waiting for 2018, 2019 Illinois Association FA State Treasurer is Taylor Hartsey.
I've never watched
you. Thank you so much. Why are you looking at
Oh yeah, this is a good acceptance speech.
Before you pack it, I gotta say my piece.
No.
Working with you and every one of you this year, and getting to know you and just making it all about the experience. Thank you. I really appreciate absolutely everything.
Wait, Taylor, what about your parents?
Yeah. Don't expect your child to thank you.
Okay, so. Oh, that's cool video.
All girl privilege and honor to introduce you for the first time to your 2018-2019 Illinois FFA Major State Officer Team.
Hold the pump the crowd up.
I just like to drag.
You're like,
You probably did. I was not even interested in balloons and confetti.
so as you can see, reliving that day is still a little emotional. So.
In all seriousness, when your child gets up there, if they are successful, don't expect a lot.
I will say, before we even started our president's meetings, the individuals that were in the hot boxes that told us to not forget to thank our parents. However, a lot of that day is a blur, and at that moment, I was not sure what was going on, and I hadn't prepared absolutely any acceptance speech of any sort, so whatever came out was going to come out. So
you were doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when you're in that moment, there's just like, it's like almost an out-of-body experience. I know it sounds like kind of cheesy, but that's really what it is. Like, I don't really remember any of that from my election. I remember going on stage, hugging Joey, and completely forgetting what I was supposed to do next, even though we had been told if you're elected, this is what you're supposed to do. And as I'm hugging Joey, whispering in his ear, it's like a complete blur, and I don't remember much of that. I thanked my mom, but I didn't thank my dad. So I mean, I feel so bad because it was a uniform thing. But sorry, Dad, I really regret that. But I couldn't really. I didn't know what I was saying. So yeah.
Thank one of your brothers.
I just said absolutely everyone.
Like, how many have you as parents have been to state convention and seen elections? Okay, so there are some that have seen it, witnessed it, experienced it. Maybe not necessarily have the butterflies in your stomach like the parents of the candidates have. Welcome to that world. But it is good to know if you've experienced it before, because it is really hard to describe. So I'm glad that this team put together a video clip for you to see, because that is just a small glimpse of the agonies of elections.
It is 3.5 hours of sitting there. You watch the first cut, and Taylor didn't make the first cut for president, and then vice president comes up, and Taylor made the first cut for vice president, but didn't make another cut after that for vice president. And as you sit back and you watch, it's a big game of chess, and it's the best way to describe it from a parent's view. You sit back and you watch, and you say, okay. And I was able to sit back, and I had, if anybody knows Chuck Harkey, that's Taylor's great uncle, and he likes to think great in more than one way, but that's my dad's brother, and he was there. And we sat back and we said, okay, we watched how things worked. Sophie got elected. She was from District 3. So then all of a sudden, District 4.
Right.
So then all of a sudden, Taylor's votes came up a little bit. And then all of a sudden, Eliza got elected. Taylor moved up again. And it was just a matter of, it's a big game of chess, and where the delegates feel they want to be. And I feel sorry for Clayton, because I was on pins and needles. I'd hate to been in his shoes, because there's a young man last year that made the final cut every time, even against Taylor, and was never able to get elected. So, but I'm sure, I don't know what Clayton's doing now, but I'm sure he's doing great things, because he's a great public speaker.
Yep. Oh, fantastically talented. All the 10 that are on stage are fantastically talented. And what the piece that you don't get to see is Taylor is one of our few treasurers in the last few years that actually made a cut. We had 4 treasurers in a row that never made a cut until they ran for treasurer. So don't think your child is out. I mean, it is not over until that last office is announced. So, and the chess match is a great analysis, because the votes do change and shift. And we're going to vote for Eliza because she's my camp group leader. And then once Eliza's, well, who are we going to vote for now? Well, he really likes that person's speech, and they're going to vote for somebody else. So the votes do change and shift, and it is very unpredictable.
And I will say, I'm somebody that I really like to always self down, or like I nitpick the littlest things that I do. And going on stage at state convention, yes, was nerve-wracking, but I think I myself was actually, like, that was one of the very few times, or the only times, that I was proud of what I was able to leave on that stage. Like, you and I actually had a nice chat in the hot box that we laugh about now. It was actually after Shaylee, we had just done our reporter speeches, and after, before Chud's, whatever. Before we were both elected, we were down in the hot box, and we looked at one another, and we're like, you know what, we're going to end out our year as section president, living it out, being excited for convention no matter what happens. And we actually decided right then and there that we weren't going to get elected, but we just weren't going to get elected together. So it was going to be fine. And then we got elected. Yeah, little did we know. But even, again, just like collection committee, being on stage and being able to do that is amazing. And it's definitely a piece that you get to learn about yourself and go through it with some really great people. And I think all of us were very confident that no matter what 5 were going to be picked, it was going to be a good 5, and LMYSA was in good hands. I remember right before treasurer, at this point, convinced I wasn't getting elected, I looked at everybody in the huddle and I said, you guys have a great team, you're going to do a great year. Like, it's being happy for whoever gets elected. Everybody has this dream, but only 5 necessarily get to live it out. But it's still being there for whoever.
And we'll talk to you, the candidates, a little bit more about this later, but the people that you're running against, like, in the hot box, like, that's still a team. Like, for us, it was all section presidents that year, and so we had all been section presidents, and it's important to keep using each other as a support system and understand that everybody's going for the same goal that you are, with the same passion that you have, and to not view each other as competition, but more like that you're all in this together pursuing something that's going to be really good for Illinois FFA.
Yeah, our group was really like that in the hot box, like all 10 of us. We were trying to help each other out. Even, like, I had one of my good friends, Reed Joseph, we had each other's back. Like, okay, if your speech, like, if I need to be louder, if I need to do this, like, let me know, you know what I mean? Each of us had each other's backs. And it's such a weird process, because you are competitors, but you're not competitors at all, because you're all best friends. And so you want that you want this person to get elected, but you want to get elected, and you want this person elected. So it's just the craziest process, but I think it's almost better that you go in there and you have people that support you that totally understand what you're going through too, because they're doing it.
Yes. Go ahead. I just wanted to say, for point of reference, hot box is not what it sounds like.
Oh,
it is a locker room that is designated only for candidates. Only candidates and 2 ag teachers that this team will select and are approved are down in that hot box. So they do not have access to anyone other than their runner, and the runner is another process we'll talk about a little bit too. No outside contact with anyone from the outside election world. So when you go down into the hot box, into the locker room, it is the 10 candidates, those 2 ag teachers, and no one else. And you'll have the opportunity to visit with your runner, which is someone you personally select candidates, and that runner comes and talks to you right after whatever office is elected. And we always tell whoever gets elected, talk as long as you want, because the longer you talk, the more the other candidates have to talk with their runner. Their runner then tells them what they want to hear, whether they want to hear where the standings are, or they want to hear jokes, they want to hear you're the greatest ever, whatever they want to hear. That runner is that person that support person. The runner is different than the mentor. The mentor is your assigned past state officer from our office. We govern that process. The runner could be a past state officer, could be an aunt, uncle, friend, best friend, kid from your chapter, advisor. It's who you want it to be. We don't necessarily dictate. We don't dictate runners at all. We do have a meeting in the morning beforehand where we have candidates, runners, and mentors all there to talk about everything and answer any questions and everything. But the hot box is not, well, it is hot, but it is a locker room designated for them that is supervised by teachers. Yes.
Okay, I'll give you a story about Taylor and her runner. Her runner was a good friend from YEA?
No, 4-H.
4-H. And Taylor was so happy that Miriam got elected.
It was everybody.
And she grabs her by both shoulders and says, Taylor, you have one more speech to give. Pull it together, girl.
that was pretty much every single office. Like, I just Sophie on stage to give her speech, and I'm like about in tears, and Sophie just got elected. And she's like, Taylor, you still have to give speeches. Like,
it reminds me of Mr. Potato Head, and smack, get your head back in the game.
And that kind of feeds back into what I think all of our saying, take-home messages, that this has a lot to do with the attitude and the mindset that you approach elections with, and how you viewing each other as a team and never counting yourself out of it and always giving it your best, I think is really our take-home message. Are there any other questions that we can answer about convention elections or the process, or even going back to any of the things that we talked about at the beginning of the meeting that we can answer before we split the 2 groups and have candidates and parents split?
I've got one quick comment. Other than being stressful as a parent, it's a lot of fun because the amount of time for the speeches and what they give, it's amazing. And when you get done, if you're lucky enough and you get elected, but even if you don't, you're thinking, my gosh, there's a lot of talented kids. They're going to have great futures. And at the end of the day, so it goes by pretty quickly because the speeches are so good.
Any questions?
Do you have any
questions? Is there anything else that we need to cover before we split the 2 groups?
No, I think it's time to. The kitchenette is right over here. There's punch. There's.
Oh yeah.
I thought we would talk about that. And they would talk about that. Or do you want to all talk about that together? We are doing something different this year with the campaign posters. Once you know from selection committee that you are one of the 10, we are asking that you send us a PDF of what you want your poster to look like, and then we will print all posters here, 2 for each candidate, and that way you are not incurring that cost of having a poster made, and then that we know that the posters are then all the same size, all the same material, and it's just more equitable across the board, and then also covers any expenditure or cost that you have. Now, that being said, that PDF that you send us, that is what we'll print. So you need to make sure that what you send us is exactly how you want that to look, and then we'll have proofs come to us from the poster company, and we'll make sure everybody is good with that. But that is something different this year. So your posters will be the same. In the past, you may have noticed that candidates we used to ask for 3 posters, and they could all 3 be different, or 2 the same and 1 different. Now it's 1 PDF that you send us, 2 posters are the same, and we print them.
So it's just 2 posters, not 3?
It's just 2 posters.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
This is the same or different design, but you're saying that's the same?
Same design, 1 PDF.
Anything else before we break?
Okay, yeah, so break, yeah, lead us into the kitchen. Okay, so John and I are gonna take things over and get us started back in here just really quick. And again, we have the parents stay here with us so that you really can ask parent to parent. I think it's really great when you can build that relationship with the parents of our state officers and ask those questions directly. The couple things that I will talk about when I hit upon, the commitment form is one of the handouts that you picked up. It's very similar to the commitment form that they signed as a section president. We do ask that the commitment form be signed by the officer, their parents, and their current advisor. And then we ask that it is notarized. And then we do collect these at selection committee weekend so that we have them ready to go. And when your student is elected, they have already made this commitment. And the big thing that I like to emphasize, and lucky for us, for the most part, if your child has been a section president, you've met John and I before at our summer meeting during state convention. And we applaud you for coming to that, because that's our first opportunity for you to begin to understand how serious we are and how serious we have to be about this commitment form. Dave talked about it's a job. It is a job, and we have high expectations, but it is a job that you really don't get to leave at the office. One of the things that one of the very first trainings our officers will get is an ethics training about, how you are perceived, what you put on social media, what you wear when you're not in official dress. All of those things, you are now in this big, gigantic fishbowl, and there are 18,000 students and over 400 teachers, and then all those others that are looking at you and all of your actions. And so we do, it's a big expectation, and so we do provide some training for that, but we also line out that expectation from the very beginning. And every team has heard from us the day after they were elected, what you wore to the dance Wednesday night or Tuesday night is not something you'll wear again as a state officer representing Illinois FFA. And it's not that they're cute clothes, I totally get it, but now it's a little bit different story because we are viewed by all teachers and all students and history friends, and there's a certain expectation that we have. And we try to tell parents and students in the beginning, if that's too rigid, if that's not something if you can't play that game, this isn't for you. Because our rules and our expectations in this commitment form, 100%, we mean this. And I'm not trying to turn the tone in any other way other than what's on this commitment form is what we expect. And that's one of the very first things we talk about with them. On Friday, unfortunately, they don't get home too early on Friday either because we get back here, we have a state officer meeting, we have lunch for everybody to depart, and then after lunch, we bring them back here and we start those very real conversations. Okay, because, we've told them what next week's going to look like, but until you're elected, it's not relevant. So we have to go through logistics for the next couple of weeks. We have to go through our expectations, and we have to outline, we address from them at the very beginning, what are you most excited about? What are you most nervous about? Because if we know what they're nervous about, we know how to help them. We know what they're excited about, that's what we're going to, always try to emphasize with them and help them focus on and get the most out of it. If they're nervous about it, we're going to equip them with all the tools and resources that we can. But they need to know from the very beginning what's on this commitment form is our expectation. No questions asked. Yes?
I would comment on that. It's very serious, and to the point, Sophie's headed to the U of I, and her boyfriend is there. He's in a fraternity. She has friends, close friends that are there. She's never been to the fraternity. She doesn't know any of his friends. She doesn't know she knows their names because he talks about them. She doesn't know their faces. She completely stays away, completely 100% from that scene. Not that she's going to go and drink or party or do anything. She doesn't want to be in a photo where other kids are doing that. She may be standing there innocently with a Coke, but she doesn't need to be part of that scene, and she knows that. And your kid's got to be sure they're willing to commit to doing that.
I think what's important, too, is I promise you, John and I in this office, we don't have time to police every photo that they're in. We don't know those things. but I guarantee you somebody else will. And the minute they bring it to our attention, and if we don't know anything about it, then we have to start asking questions too. So what our officers very quickly become accustomed to, I'm going to a wedding reception this weekend, there will be alcohol. And they let me know. So I know where they are. I know if they're going to Rush Farmhouse for the weekend, and I know they're not staying at the house, because that's one of our rules, don't stay at the house, you know, find other accommodations, or if you have to, put you in a hotel. And I also know, I try to know, we don't always get that accomplished, who is the event chair for Farmhouse for this weekend. Send me that agenda. I want to know what's going on. Because it's not because I'm over policing their mood, it's because I can defend them in a drop of a hat when somebody wears human. I think that's what's really important. Yes, Lynn?
And I have one other thing to comment on that is I also had a staff state officer, and you have to be very in tune with your child because it does take them out of a lot of those social events that their friends are doing. And so some Friday and Saturday and Sunday afternoons can be very lonely because if they are at home and there's parties going on at the neighbors or what have you, I mean, your child can't take that chance. And they have to understand that, and that's where family comes into play and helps them, you know, provides that, well, let's go do this or do that, because it's just not an option.
And I will go back to when Colton was an officer. You say, hey, what are you guys doing this weekend? And Colton's like, not hanging out with friends. And I said, that's what I want. Because he goes, yeah, I know what my buddies are doing. You know, they've all graduated high school. And I knew it. And so the other thing that's the biggest probably, when you look at that orange packet that shows you the life of state officer, and we look at August, and you see Illinois State Fair. Ooh, that's me. And it is hard for us to keep a handle on that. And so just because we do have our officers there the entire length of the fair, but we've gone to a system in the last, 4 years that we have past state officers or spouses or assistant directors. The men in the house will chaperone the young men that are staying out at the fairgrounds at the tent. We have this game of tent. Actually, I sleep in the barnyard. Actually, I don't know how to do it, so I don't know that. But we have the girls back here at the hotel. We have adult chaperone, past state officers or myself. We'll chaperone the girls here at the hotel. State Fair is a beast because there's just a party atmosphere after some of the shows, and we know that. We're not ignorant of that, but we have to be very conscientious of that. And again, we're not doing this because we have perfect expectations of every person in the world, and we're not saying that drinking is a bad thing. If you drink socially, that's a wonderful thing. That's up to you. You know, we probably should do it more often with the stress we have, but I'm legal. I'm of age, and so there's that big difference with your students. And so in today's world, we have to be very, very conscientious of that. We even go so far to talk to them about the photos they place on Facebook. I know we found out we're even pickier than National FFA, but we've had things happen, and we need to be very conscientious and very aware of how we present ourselves. So we tell our students, you know, no tongues hanging out of your mouth, you know, when you're smiling through teeth, maybe the open mouth and tongues hanging out, because people will then make memes and add things to that. And I'm not going to tell you what they add to it. You can use your imagination. That imagination can go take a wrong turn very quickly. So we talk to them about their attire that they wear quite a bit. And again, it sounds like we're over-policing them, but it is an expectation that you're representing Illinois FFA, and that has to be professional.
The one thing that we'll emphasize is that we talk to the students, but we want to make sure that the parents understand that we understand a lot of these things are societal norms. And for students of their age, there may be things that are normal and fine for them to do as students of their age, but we have high expectations, and that is one thing that we won't apologize for. And as you talk to some of the officers up here, that was kind of a culture shock for them, but I would almost encourage you to ask some of them later on. They've come to really appreciate that, because even though we have higher expectations, at the beginning of the year they would say things like, well, National FFA posted a picture like that. Well, National FFA used songs like that. We hold you to a higher standard. We have higher expectations, and just because people of your age do it, or just because officers of a higher organization or a peer organization do it, we hold them to very high expectations, and they have come to appreciate that, because they realize what a high standard they're held to and what work that means that they're cranking out.
I think the other thing that's important to go with that, and John touched upon that, we do have that higher expectation, and they come to appreciate it. But even when we talk about the lyrics of a song, we've been burned. We have to do these things because we learned the hard way. If you don't check song lyrics and they play a song and The song, yeah, you can get burnt really quickly. And so we have to be really picky and particular about those things. And John's really good at knowing how to find songs and song lyrics and reading through those. Because you can't always hear it. You have to read the song lyrics. So again, we've been burnt by that, and we're not going to take those chances. And there will be something else that we get burnt by before, and that, in the future. Don't know what it is yet, but it will be something. And again, we are always trying to protect the best interests of this organization. And that is, I will err on that way every time. And we're always trying to protect the best interest of your child too. And the tighter the ship we can run for them, the more protection it provides them.
I appreciate that very much as a parent.
Good.
Isn't that what a lot of us parents have been dealing with all along?
Well, everybody else is doing it.
Well, I don't care if everybody else is doing it. We don't do it. So it's kind of nice that substitute mother things. And some of this stuff, as far as behaving professionally, I mean, they're going to need to keep doing that if they're a respectable profession.
So then the next thing, are there any questions, or are there any questions that I can answer about the commitment form or our expectations in that world? Again, we're not trying to beat you over the stick with it, but if your child wants to be elected, we don't want it to be shocking to you that, he said you can't wear that? No, I can't wear that. Okay. No yabba dabba doobie t-shirts, they're gone, That's crazy. So time commitment. Time commitment is huge. We already said it's a full-time job. And Joey did a fantastic job. I'm not going to hit on it too long. 70% out of the office from June to December, and then it just flips. And it could be 70-30, it could be 60-40, because when they're here in the office, we're working on convention, but then here pretty soon, in the next couple of weeks, actually, they'll start their banquet circuit, so they'll be back out in the evenings for banquets. We always tell them, too, with banquets, if it's hour and a half, you get back to the center at a good time and you're good, or if you need to stay over in that location, do that as well. But banquet season will get them out, but not for those days at a time when we're all out of the building. So, but it is a huge time commitment, and I think they already shared with you too the number of weekends that they're home and the number of weekends they don't get. One of the things we always ask is, there's family commitments now, get them on the calendar now. We have, you guys all have families, so you have weddings and you have confirmations, and you have first-year birthdays. You have lots of great things going on. We don't want them to miss that. We want to try to work with them as much as we can to get to those things, so that if you know those things, the sooner we can get them on the calendar, then we know not to commit them to something else. We will definitely work around that. And let's say we do have somebody that's, they went on family vacation for 3 days, and we have 2 other officers that didn't realize they're taking the day off yet. What do you want to go do? I want to go hunt. We'll go home and hunt. We do want to try to provide a balance, so then there isn't this animosity that, well, Liza always gets to go, and Sophie's always working. We try to make that balance, but we also put that on them, too. You've got to kind of balance that yourself and line out those expectations. But it is a huge time commitment. Are there any questions about the time commitment? Or their arrangements, working here, staying at the Ramada? Typically, if they're not at the Ramada, they're staying with you on chapter visits, as you all very well know, so thank you for being gracious hosts to them during chapter visits. And then oftentimes they're staying with us. We'll be at hotels with them, and so we do keep an eye on them that way. I think that they all did a great job of talking about this as an opportunity of a lifetime. This team really drove that home, and they probably didn't drive home as much. I mean, they kind of did a little, but it is exhausting, or can be exhausting, and it can be lonely on the weekends when your friends are doing something else, and it can be like, I'm not in touch with what's going on. And, we've had some past officers that farming is such a big part of their life, and they miss just being in the tractor, they miss being with their cows, they just miss that atmosphere. And so there's some homesick, just like going off to college, there's some homesick stuff goes on too. And we try to be conscientious of that, and we try to catch some of that too. But I think they all summed it up. It's well worth the year, it's well worth the commitment. But I think when we talk about that commitment, I think it's also very important that, when the girls talk about some of the characteristics that you have to have, if your child doesn't have that, and you just can't see this as something this is really for them, don't be afraid to have that honest conversation with them, because we don't want them to get into this and then we're to be elected and then, this isn't for me, and then that's a really long, hard year. So the reason why we have today's meeting here in February, planned for January, is so that you've got a month to, well, you got 2 weeks, because they need to get that application done. But you've got a couple weeks to really have some hard conversations. I know this is a lifelong dream, but are you cut out for this? Can you be gone that much? Can you be on that much? Can you watch your P's and Q's all the time? Are you really cut out for this? And I think it's a conversation that only you and your child can have. We can advise them that way too. We've had a lot of them that will want to do it, commit to doing it, and then, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, and they'll come to us. And the advice we always say is, don't ever have any regrets. Don't look back and say, I wish I, coulda, shoulda, woulda. But also know, if your heart's not in it, don't do it. Your heart has to be in this job. Because it is, while it's very, it is, you said it's prestigious. It's prestigious. It is. It's a big deal. Like, woo, people make a big, big deal out of it. Yes, they do. And it is a fantastic opportunity lifetime. But it is, you are being wined and dined by Girl Mark one night, and you're eating prime rib and la-di-da, and you're eating cold chicken nuggets at 2 o'clock the next day, and you're traveling 4 hours to get somewhere, and you're getting pie in the face as a fundraiser for that section. Woo, that's fun. And then you got to drive back, or you have to put up with, there's a lot of prestige, there's a lot of work. And then we say, are you ready for your meeting? Do you have your copies made? Have you talked through your agenda? Or you know what you're doing? Is your speech ready? Because you have deadlines to meet. So while it is prestigious, there's a lot of work. And so having those real conversations with your children is crucial. And we'll tell them, don't live without any, no regrets, but your heart's got to be in it because you're with us 24/7. And if working with us is a challenge, then you need to talk to them about that and then talk to us too. Because as John said, we're not going to apologize for our expectations. We're not going to budge on our expectations. And we've watched them, they rise to our expectations. And when they don't, it's not pretty, but we get through it. Because we know the end result, they'll be better off, and so will we at the end. Because we learn from our mistakes too, and we grow and we change things. And some of the things when I watched the video and they talked about the fleet vehicles and the girls using the security system and the key, I'm thinking, Lynn, we have come a long way. I had the opportunity to have Lynn's son my first year as executive director as a state officer, Don and I both. And we've done things to ensure their safety. We've done things to ensure some flexibility for them, but also just create an atmosphere that we think is really good for them. And so, but I can't wait to see where we are in the next 4 years, because I do think that you giving us feedback and our officers giving us feedback is how we grow and get better. No such thing as I have arrived.
I was gonna add when you say, glamorous, you see it at state convention, wow, everybody's so excited, you're a state officer. And Erin came home once, and fortunately, I don't remember where it was, but it was somewhere where she was doing a workshop for these kids. They were not into it. Their advisor was not into it, didn't have good morale, and it was like, I was like, so this is the other side of the coin. Like, they maybe don't even know what a state officer is. And here she's got to spend 2 hours in front of them, getting them enthused, and it can be uphill.
Yeah.
Really uphill.
Yeah, there's some kicks in the gut. They're not too fun. I don't want to go too far there, but you're absolutely right. I mean, any of you who've taught or given a presentation, there are days when that presentation is dead on and you've got the crowd and they're there, and there are days where you're like, we are not connecting and I'd just rather go crawl in a hole. And they have those days, and so we try to coach them through all that. Absolutely, absolutely. So some of the things you want to talk to them about are, their time management. Are they a self-starter? Can they work well with others? How is it when everybody brought up the two things people said to me as soon as this team was elected? Oh, your clothing budget's they're gonna blow the lid off clothing budget with pantyhose. And of course, then they said, oh, the drama and catfights you're gonna have. And they said it to the girls, in front of the girls, to me, to John, to any of us that would stand still long enough to listen. And that made this team very committed to, you won't find drama with us. And I'd be very truthful, you have not. But to the point where they weren't getting real with each other either. They weren't saying when something was. And so they said, I think Joey, your friend, called it our come to Jesus thought. You have one of those for sure in December when we do evaluation. So they're evaluated by their teammates, they're evaluated by us. We have this, and it's a huge growing point for all of us. But it's also that opportunity, if you haven't yet, get real. Most teams get real during state fair, let me just tell you, because it's hot and exhausting and tiring. But this team, because they wanted to prove the whole world wrong and they weren't going to be dramatic, they kind of held on, and we kind of forced them to get real with one another. But ask your child, how do you deal with that? Think about people, these are really strong personalities in this room. They're really talented kids. They're not all type A, but they're talented young men and women. They have to be prepared to know that you're gonna have to grow and be flexible in that. So those are some of the things you'll want to talk about with them as well. And just how they want to organize their life. We'll do everything we can with our Google calendars, and John is like king of organization. That's such an awesome thing. We always joke we're the yin and the yang, the brain and the brawn, whatever you want to call it, but we definitely have the creative and the organization between the two of us that can help them get where they need to be. But you want to talk to them about that too, because there are certain things that it's a lot, and you want to make sure you have this conversation with them so that you feel they're prepared and you feel they're ready. Those are my big points that I wanted to hit. Any questions about anything we've talked about so far? I know it's a little bit overwhelming. We were talking in the kitchen like, wow, I've learned so much. Yes, there's a lot to know, but there's all of this yes.
So if your child would get elected to an office and they do show,
yeah,
do they get that opportunity to stay there or no?
As long as, for the most part, I'm going to say yes, because showing never takes place on Ag Day. And Ag Day is a big day of demand that we have for our officers. And it depends upon if they have teammates that show too. So it's balancing those show schedules so that, yeah, you can go show here and you can go show there. And we do, 9 times out of 10, they get to show. But to the extent they would have if they weren't an officer, probably not.
Okay.
But we do, we work with them, especially, and their teammates do too. But if we had 5 show kids, it gets a little hot and dodgy, and then we pull up more section presidents to help us. But State Fair every year gets more and more challenging to fill all our working spots because it's harder for kids to miss football and volleyball practices and those things leading into school. And school starts earlier too. Yeah. And colleges start. You've got to be moved in, and we get pretty thin. So say if they don't show, showing dairy is probably going to be the one that's going to hurt us because that's later in the fair. We really are scrapped for kids, but usually we can make that work.
Okay.
But the rest of the summer, no, because we really, if it's not training, it's state officer meeting, it's 2 trips to DC, it's camp, summer.
I think Taylor was maybe home between FFA convention and state fair. She might have been home 4 nights, 5 nights. It is
summer,
and they probably want to rest then. They want to get to the bar.
I think I figured it up here. Estimated of about 58 days out of the last 220 days she's been home.
Like
and that's
full
just
days.
That's not Friday night, through Sunday night. That's figuring Saturday and Sunday. And because when you get up and go to work on Monday morning, it don't matter if she's in her bed or she's in Springfield.
Right.
But yeah, literally, it is a huge time commitment. And I'm just going to put some points out here, Mindy, and you can yell at me.
You know I will. Dave and I know each other since we were in FFA together. So.
I've got a picture of Mindy from FFA camp that the girls really want. So anyhow, yes, the parents, if your kids do get elected, get a group text put together as soon as you can, and get together at State Fair on Ag Day or on the Sunday before, because that's what we really didn't. I wish we would have got together earlier. Our first time together was Christmas party, so the kids were halfway done with their year. So,
and in our defense, when I say they're gone, we are too. Our whole staff. People say, "Oh, you have your summers off." Our summers are busy, far busier than our downtime really is December or January, and so that is our goal this year is to try to get that first Sunday of State Fair, all the parents of the newly elected officers here to the FFA Center or even out at the fairgrounds just to have some camaraderie because there's just no time to even because their weekends that they do get, we want them to get home and we want our weekends too. It's summer, it's really, really hectic. So that's a great point, Dave. I'm glad you brought that up.
And then also, I don't know if the other parents can say this, but my daughter's best 4 friends are probably sitting up here at the front table.
Absolutely.
Like they said, sons, his buddies are all, out doing things that he can't be doing. Well, I can remember Eliza and Taylor and Sophie and Miriam and Shaylee all being text messaging and whatnot, even after they get home after spending a whole week together. Right. Because they have nobody that they can really hang out with and not get in trouble. So.
And most of their friends don't understand unless they were in FFA and were that driven and went to conventions, understand what they're doing, what the commitment is. People in town The easiest way I explain it is it's an unpaid internship. They are literally working every day, whether it be in Springfield or where they're at. They're lucky to be home on the weekends. That's the best way I can describe it to where people somewhat understand. And the girls will tell you stories of other people who will see them at state fair and different places, and they're like, oh my God, you're a state officer. And they're like, we're just people. But then it makes them realize that everything they do is watched.
I have a great story about that, and I will tell that. But I want to hit on what Corey said, the unpaid internship. We do keep them under contract until the first week in July, because they will go on a trip to watch their final event after convention is going to Washington, D.C. on the Heritage and Co-op trip with Illinois Farm Bureau. And then after they're back from that, they come back here, and we do a debrief week where they give us all the advice from the year that they want to, go through the whole year, and then talk about how do we transition into college. Our past state officers kind of coordinate our debrief week. We also have to clean out your desk, upload everything to the server, show the new officers around town. That week is a process. So, but we were, Dave got his honorary American degree out at the National Convention this year, and we had to go from the state photo to that session. And so, short leg Mindy, long leg Taylor, we are hoofing it to from Bankers Fieldhouse to Bankers Fieldhouse to get there. And as we're walking, some kid, I can't remember the picture, reaches out and like touches Taylor because, oh, she's not sick. Thought Taylor was state president, it doesn't matter, but was touching her, gonna grab her like she was some celebrity, and you should have seen the look. She shot around and then I'm like following behind, so I'm like 20 steps behind her. Yeah, we're in a hurry. It's okay, honey. So yeah, that whole we're not people, they are, they're not celebrity rock stars, but they are in the FFA world, and some people want to make a bigger deal out of that than others, and that can be an adjustment too, and we keep them pretty grounded. But that's the other important part of the debrief week is, okay, how do you go now from being the mini FFA rock star to, hey, you're a college kid. Sit in the seat and learn like everybody else. And that's a transition too. And so that's part of our goal with the debrief week is to help them get a handle on, now you're off to college, things are different. You don't, and some of them will say, I go to college, and yeah, college is busy, but it's a different kind of busy. And so there's an adjustment there too. Those are my points, John.
So a couple other things that I have to kind of share and cover on are more logistical, fleet reimbursement policies. The officers and the parents did a really great job on it, so I'll skim over quite a bit, but if you have questions, please let us know. We are in the first year of the fleet vehicles, so these fleet vehicles that we have now we'll be keeping for another 3 years. We are very excited about how it's worked thus far and hoping to continue that if your child gets elected as a major state officer, the goal is that someone else will bring them to convention, and even when they drive home from convention, they're driving home in a fleet vehicle. So the goal is that they won't have to use their personal vehicle throughout the year. That being said, as there's events where they're going home in the middle of the week for a family birthday party or a wedding, or maybe they have things that they need to go home for, some of those miles will be reimbursable. We will reimburse them, or we will cover their transportation every week to and from the office and every assignment that we give them. But if they have family obligations, typically we ask that they cover those miles on their own. So in that case, I know Sophie had one a couple weeks ago where she took the fleet vehicle home, but then on her next trip to Springfield, she drove her personal vehicle, just so that one of those trips was on a personal car and the rest of it was on a fleet vehicle. So we're very flexible. You may still be using your personal vehicles throughout the year. So still plan on having a personal vehicle for them to use when they're home on the weekends. But on the other side, I think Shaylee's used the vehicle a couple times that she didn't necessarily want to pick up a personal vehicle or didn't want to drive a personal vehicle. So she drove the fleet vehicle. She just kept track of her miles, and then she pays or reimburses the FFA center for the personal miles that she drives on the fleet vehicle. So that has been a really great opportunity. We're still kind of learning and growing. This year's team didn't get them until probably halfway through the fall semester. But we're learning from that, and hopefully we'll have more to share with the parents next year that you can utilize that fleet experience as well. And one of the things that's been said, and many of you have heard it, but it bears repeating, that anywhere they're at in the state, we can get them home, we can get them help. But that's not just in the state, that's anywhere across the country. And it's one of those things that it's never a thing we want to have to do, but unfortunately we've had to. And even when we're hundreds of miles away in another state, we find a way to get people home. And we find a way to make sure that students are where they need to be if there's a family emergency or whatever else is happening. We have years upon years upon years of past state officers and people doing great family, and it's actually really cool to see how they come together to make sure that they take care of these students no matter where they're at and what they're doing. On reimbursement, there's little reimbursement now because they do have an office credit card that they can use for a lot of their clothing, their fuel's covered, all of their mileage is covered. So the officers have very little reimbursement. But that's something we'll work out with each family, that if there is ever a time that they have to put something on a personal card or you go shopping for them. So sometimes they talk about they may take them shopping when they're home on the weekends. We've had a lot of other officers that have had to go to the store for them and pick up more official dress or have other clothes ready for them when they got home because they weren't going to have time to go shopping. So if you have to do that, you as parents can submit reimbursement to our office, and we can send that reimbursement to you for any expenses that they incur that we have a reimbursement line for. Health insurance is another thing that they kind of touched on, and when they're sick, just make sure that when they go off that they're still covered under a health insurance plan and that they have a card with them, because we will always try to take care of them. We'll always try and go to prompt care with them or kick their butt out the door and make sure they get to prompt care when they need to. But having that health insurance card with them and knowing their plan and knowing what they need to do or knowing where they can go or their preferred providers here in Springfield is definitely something to take time to talk to your officer about before they would come into Springfield.
Now we do upload. We have you do a registration system where you upload their health card, but it's still good for them to have it on hand, because if they do get sick on a weekend and we're not even able to print off their health card or send them that health card, but now electronically can work, but still good if they had it on hand. Very helpful.
Any questions on the fleet vehicles or reimbursement policy? Those are probably two of our biggest areas that we usually get questions on. We've tried again over the last 4 years. We've simplified that process a lot. Used to, officers would be paying $400 or $500 a month out of their own pocket or more, and then have to be reimbursed. And that was a major financial obligation. And same with their personal vehicles. They were having to put a lot of miles on personal vehicles. So we've done a lot to try and make sure that the financial obligation doesn't fall back on them as an officer or on you as a family, that we can kind of try and keep track of that, but it's also simplified the process for us that we don't have as much to deal with in reimbursement practices. Any questions?
Yeah. Any questions at all about any of those things?
The only other thing that I would hit on is that they talked about deferring enrollment, and a few people have asked, have we worked with this specific institution? We have great relationships with, actually within our office. I'm also executive director for ICTAI, which is the Illinois Association for Community College Ag Instructors. So every community college in the state of Illinois that has an ag program is actually housed in this office as well. We house an organization that represents them. So we have a great working relationship with all of our community colleges, and we also work with our university council, which represents every university in the state of Illinois and their ag programs. We have great relationships with their dean's offices, with their registrar's offices, with their advisement offices. Actually, we've got some things worked out with SIU and other places that will actually do their advisement from here in Springfield. And I will communicate with their academic advisor, and we'll do things here on site so that they don't have to go to college and take those days out of the office. But we have great relationships with them. They're great to work with. They typically hold all of their scholarships. But it is something that we do emphasize. Make sure you check with them because for these officers, they didn't have many scholarships that they lost or that they lost out on. But we have had some officers that if they looked at going to school for a year, and I myself, when I became a state officer, I had a 4-year scholarship. And to take on state office, I got to keep the scholarship, but I only got to keep 3 years of the scholarship. So the year that I was in state office, I missed out on all those scholarships for that year. It pushed me, and then I graduated in 3 years. But definitely check into those scholarships, both at the local and the state level. And if there's anything that we can do to help, please let us know. And we will write letters, we will send letters, we will talk to those scholarship coordinators and help in any way we can.
It is worth noting that at the end of their term as a state officer, after that first week in July, they're awarded what's called our J.E. Hill Scholarship, which is a $1,000 scholarship. And $1,000 really isn't that much when you look at the entire year that they've given us. But that is what the scholarship is set at this point from the Illinois Foundation and FFA. And so they will get their J.E. Hill Scholarship at the end of their year as well. And they have two ways of getting that. They can tell us, and we can send it directly to the institution, and the institution can work it that way, or we hand them the check. So that is up to that individual officer how they want to handle that. So that's something else we ask you to, or our state officer, we ask parents to talk about that as well. Is there anything about the election process or the narrowing process, the selection committee, or the election, anything? Those are the last two things I have on my notes to make sure you feel comfortable about. Are there any? I'm just going to open up for questions because I think we talked about it enough. Happy to answer any questions about that or questions about anything. This is really where your child's not here, you're not going to embarrass them, there's no stupid questions. And and John and I were very fortunate, and I'll even open it up to my husband. He and Kirsten, our spouses, they do travel with us when we go to Washington, D.C., and Mark always goes with me to Farm Bureau annual meeting, and this year I had to come back for visitation, and so Mark chaperones the officers for the rest of Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and that was great. I don't believe there's such a thing as too many positive role models, adult role models for your children, and so it was good for that team, and it was really good for Mark because our daughter Emery is all 5 of these personalities all rolled into one. So we've got to work it out for her. But don't be afraid to ask any of us questions. We are our whole point and purpose. Obviously, we're very fortunate in the fact that we're both sitting in our dream jobs just at different times in life. We talked about yin and yang, young and old, but we're here because we want to be here. We're here because FFA did something for us, and this is our great opportunity to do the same thing for officers. And so we're fortunate in the fact that we're both here in a job that we're fully committed to, and we love what we do, but we've also been doing it together from the start. And that's just been a really great opportunity for us to grow things in a way, learning from our strengths and weaknesses, but our officers' strengths and weaknesses, and really making this what we hope to be better. And so don't hesitate to ask us questions, or if there is something you find challenging, please let us know. Our job is to fix it or answer the question. Some of the people in this room I've known for a very long time. When I look at Sally's grandpa. He was an ag teacher when I was in high school, and so I'm like looking at Mr. Stork going, "Are you okay?" And Mr. Donahoe and I were section presidents together, so we were on Mighty Adventures then too. So some of you know me a long time, and so for those that know me that very long time, obviously don't hesitate to ask questions. But for those that we're meeting today, or this is our second time meeting because we've had a state convention, I'm an open book. I'll tell you whatever you need to know. And then if I don't know, I look at whoever's around me. And that's one of the things I'm good at, is surrounding myself with people that, they're on point and they know what's going on all the time. So we'll get you the answers. Any questions we can answer? Lori, anything you would like to share? Mark, anything you would like to share?
We're all very concerned about your children, your students, and we're all very close as far as logistically, physically. I live 5 minutes from here, and Tammy just a couple minutes more, and I know that Jeanette lives in town as well, so there's always backup systems. So you'll have all of our cell numbers. Don't hesitate to call.
That's a great point, Lori. Thank you. I live the furthest away. I'm 40 minutes.
Taylor made a note for me here. She said, mention setting at convention and explain.
What it's like for the parents. And
it is very stressful because they're always moving, and they're getting moved from the hot box back up to stage and that. So you're sitting out there and you're wondering how your child is doing. How are they holding together? It is very stressful. I cannot remember her name here. Lynn sat there and watched me last year, and I was a little stressed out, I'd say. It's a good thing I didn't take up smoking because I'd have had to have some nicotine gum. But it is very stressful to sit out there and watch and see how things materialize, and is your child going to make it? And like I said, I felt sorry for Clayton because he did make it through every cut and never did make the top one. So. But it is probably the most stressful time I've been through for a long time.
But your child's mentor sits with you. We were lucky enough that we knew a couple other past state officers that sat with us to answer questions for those who didn't have the experience of sitting through elections. I had gone as a chaperone for my kids for several years, so I sat through elections. It's an experience, and to take it all in, it's a lot, and it is stressful. and you just sit there and you hope that they do their best on stage. That was the perspective I took, is that as long as she comes off that stage knowing she did her best, it was a win for everybody, no matter what it is. And if they go in knowing you feel that way, it will also help them when they come off the stage, that you didn't feel like they lost something. And she knew that from our perspective. And her runner was also able to keep in touch with us, which did help, because her brother sat there and texted and said, is she okay? How's she doing? Which helped us because the runner could talk to us and send notes to us. But, you know, and would not share with her unless she felt she needed to know it. So.
Yeah, that's exactly my feeling. As soon as she was done with her speech, I was happy, whichever way it went, because I felt like she did a nice job. And that was my biggest fear as a parent, that she practiced, she worked, she wants this badly, and she gets lost in our lines, or something happens, or scripts or something, you know. And when she finished, I just relaxed. At that point, it was.
And I also will say that, you know, let them know if Taylor messed up her president's speech. She got cut off. The microphone got shut off on her before she completed it. And she had done that speech so many times. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, she stubbed her toe here. Is she going to be able to pull back out of this?
Right, get back her mojo.
And get back into it and stuff. So, you know, that being said, after she did get elected, don't expect a lot from them when they come home on Friday night either, one way or another, because Taylor came home. She was so exhausted, she didn't care that there was a welcome home party. She didn't care there was 100 people there just, you know, say congratulations, Taylor. Aunts and great aunts and uncles and that. And it was just, you know, so she was like, you know, she was in the car and she lets her seat down. She says, tell me nobody's at the house.
They're very overwhelmed with just everything that's happened in it.
You know, she didn't sleep for 3 nights.
They haven't slept well all throughout the week. And
so.
Yeah.
And something weird I'll just kind of throw in there, because I was caught completely unprepared. And we had a party for Sophie too. But what I was not prepared for was, in anticipating her and being excited about her coming on, planning a party, I'm mowing, sweaty and hot, and somebody starts coming across the yard at me with a TV camera. I was not prepared for news people to have my cell phone number. How they got it, I don't know. But it was kind of a little weird media circus, and I was like, seriously, people, this is
don't worry, they don't come and interview the treasurer.
She did a little more hype than other teams because they were all female.
Yep.
And they have done a great job of saying that's old news.
And
we're a team of leaders. And I'm very, very proud of them for that. But yeah, you really did get an extra credit.
That was the big question. That was the big question that they want. That was the first question out of their mouths.
Well, it's kind of funny because Taylor was supposed to get interviewed at State Fair or somewhere, and she got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and was all ready to go, and then the newscast didn't show up. And they said it was because
I thought it was my mistake, and I thought, oh, so they meant 5 o'clock at night. And I apologized to Taylor all over the place. They didn't show up 5 o'clock at night either. She didn't show up, period. Never called us back, nothing.
It was the other local girl.
Mark was happy to point that out to her.
He's like, you're laughing. Make sure you tell her that, Mark.
But the other thing I want to point out is when you look at the yellow sheet that was provided to us by Millers, it says in reality, only 10 of you will make it past the next step, and then only 5 will make it to the next team. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. Treat the rest of the year as you're going into the next step for your future. Applying for school, housing, jobs, and scholarships. And then they also went on down to say parents continue to be awesome, positive, encouraging supporters that you already are and have been. And I think that's a big point we always remind our officers of too, is it is with a great support network that they got this far. The fact that you're here with them today, you've taken the time to get them here, you are awesome and amazing parents who have brought them, you know, to the table and helped them follow their dreams. So I not only want to thank you for that, but remember that, because when this is all over, whether they get elected or don't, you still need that support system. I don't remember the athlete's name, but the athlete said, you know, he was talking about trying to make it to the NFL, being a college player, and he said, you know, I'm 100% trying to get to the next level, but in reality, I'm 80% planning for that, and my other 20% has to focus on what's next. And that's what I would tell a candidate right now, too. Put it all in. Go 100%, running for state office, And, you know, plans for 80% get elected, but that other 20% of your mind's always got to be thinking about, am I really ready for plan B? And I think that's one thing that we can't overemphasize, because this room had, I can't remember, I think we had 20 signed up to be at this meeting. So then if they all 20 put in an application, and you sometimes will even have more than that, then we're cutting it in half in April, and we're cutting in half again in June. And it's hard. And when we talk about the agony of convention elections, I'm very sincere when I say that, because we get to know them, whether they're section presidents or not. We know Clayton very well. We know them, and they're part of our same family. And it is hard to see that dream come to an end for them. But we always tell them, so I expect to see you in this office applying for your American degree, and I expect to see you helping us at state convention, and I expect to see you back in your home chapters continuing to help someone else fulfill those FFA dreams. FFA is, I mean, you got to hang up the jacket, and you got to move on, but you can still stay connected and make a huge impact and a huge difference the way it did for you. And so be prepared to have that conversation with your child, that they know it's cut in half once, it's cut in half again. Are we ready? Lynn, you have
yeah. You know, I had a son that was a state officer, but I also had a daughter that went through the process who did not get elected. And they were back to back. So I had one year, and the next year, as he's fulfilling his, you know, being an officer, I had one that was on stage trying to become an officer, and she did not get elected. So to you parents, all I can say is, no matter what the outcome is, you know, they will be fine. But they will feed off of however you act and how you support them after the fact.
Lynn's first comment when Colt got elected, because Colt got elected before her, she said, I'm sorry, Mindy.
Yeah,
because Colton that wasn't his skill set to be the best
he
writer.
Said, he goes, oh my gosh, if I be reporter, I just can't be reporter. And then he got elected reporter. So it was like this whole learning thing. But the biggest thing to take away from it is your child will follow suit with however you handle the outcome of the election. And last year, I remember vividly, it was hours, and this was last year there. And Kelsey wasn't running; it was this group, and there was two parents, and it was several hours after the election, and they were still struggling. The parents were struggling, and they had not come back with their students or their child yet. And I took probably a half hour to talk to them and explain our whole situation and said, you know, life goes on. When one door closes, another door will open. But you as a parent, yeah, it's hard. You have to, you know, you have to come to terms with it, but they have to move on, you know, and they
do.
It's
so amazing. They do. And yeah. And you've not been taking advantage of things that they wouldn't have if they were in the office here.
We had people.
We had girls that are not just girls, but I can think of Claire in particular. You know, she was a world traveler within that first semester. That opportunity wasn't going to come around again, and so she got around to get off, but she wouldn't have done that. So it really, life really does go on. And I say that I've not experienced that. Okay, I was elected. I was very fortunate, very blessed. But I've watched the success of our officers, and they're amazing. They're amazing young people. Very resilient.
We had a lot of people just come out of the woodwork, and I was very grateful for it when Sophie made the decision to run. People that would approach her and said, oh, I hear you're running for state office, and I did, and I didn't make it, but I want you to know it'll be okay, and you'll be fine, and, you know, and not just one or two, like multiple. And I was like, gosh, are we being kind of prepared or set up, you know, to, anyway, but I really appreciated a young ag teacher down in Southern Illinois. She approached us at a banquet and said that to Sophie, and she said, I want you to know something. She said, I told my kids, my ag students, about me running for state office and not making it, and how that was, you know, a regret in my life that I wish I could have done and whatever. And she said, the light bulb moment for me was one of the students said, but Mrs. I forget what her name was, but Mrs. Smith, she said, if you had been elected, you wouldn't be here with us. And so I just think that was kind of a neat perspective on that was not in the cards for her. She was going to go impact lives somewhere else. So
What questions can we answer?
The other note that the officers did leave for us and asked us to discuss briefly is campaigning. And so that is one of those areas that is a little less fun to talk about, but it is something that we do discuss heavily with them. So we do want to have parents have somewhat of an understanding for that as well. That policy is set by the FFA Board of Directors for how and when officers can campaign to become elected. We are somewhat of a unique state. And if you look at other FFA state elections, many times there's a committee that slates the officers. Or many times there's a small group of people who determine officers. In Illinois, we're somewhat unique in the fact that we still do have general popular vote. And so the FFA Board of Directors sets a campaigning policy that limits how and when they campaign. And so the posters they talked about was some of the allowable campaigning they do. The impromptu question at convention, their speeches are allowable campaigning. But on the other side, they're not allowed to campaign on social media. They're not allowed to campaign in their home chapters or schools. And so that's also something that we ask families to adhere to. And we understand that that can sometimes put a little strain on things because grandma, aunt, uncle, whoever it may be, sees a post on Facebook and just wants to congratulate them. What we have to ask is that there is no campaigning on Facebook promoting any given candidate. So what we try to do is provide some social media promotion that we will do on our page, but what we'll do is set it to where it can't be shared and it can't be commented on, so that you can point anybody you want to those posts and you can have them like it as many times as they want, but then we're not having to police and ask for certain posts to be taken down, because as of right now, the FFA board policy, and some of these things have changed just within the last few years. It used to be policy that during speeches at convention, audience was not allowed to cheer until all candidates were finished. A couple of years ago, the FFA Board of Directors kind of loosened up on that and said, you know, the students have done a great job. They deserve to hear the applause if they did a great job. So that policy is still kind of ever changing and shifting. But as of right now, the thing that we do kind of ask that you understand as well is that when we tell them they can't campaign, that includes your family as well. We have to kind of abide by that policy, and we're trying to make that a little less stressful so that things can't get shared or things can't get put out there that then family members are accidentally commenting on or making comments that we have to be asked to be taken down. But please kind of help them navigate those tricky waters, truly because it's in their best interest. Because as the boards discuss, and as we discuss with a lot of officer teams, sometimes there's officers or candidates that will be campaigning that it's somewhat questionable if what they're doing is campaigning. But more often than not, what we find is that sometimes it'll come back and bite them in the butt, that they stretched out a little too far, and General Pop, or the delegates that came to convention, disliked the fact that they felt that they were campaigning, that they were trying to get votes in whatever way. So we're still trying. We are the enforcers of that policy, and we do understand viewpoints on both sides of that, but we have to enforce the policy that the FFA Board of Directors has set and ask you kind of adhere to that. So if there's any questions regarding campaigning, we would be happy to answer those now as well.
So do they do anything other than there's the two posters and then they do the resume that they fill in with their application goes into a resume booklet, and then every FFA chapter gets a copy of that resume booklet at convention. So the resume booklet, their poster, and then the social media, we'll do a social media post for the 10R, and then the question, and then running.
Okay,
and then the
mid-session.
In the mid-session, they've chosen to dance, they line dance, the crowd line dances. And everybody always wants to know why do you have to have mid-sessions, because we have to have the backstage crew plenty of time to get all the awards that are ready and all the people lined up to come on stage. So a mid-session, they will probably, we advise them to dance. Then it's just easier. Nobody hears.
I think it just shows that they can have fun.
Yes, and it's something they don't. But that's pretty much what it is. Back in our day, Ken, we used to be able to make brochures. Do you remember that? The brochures and certain regulations. That's been replaced with the resume booklet now. So it's just one booklet. And in the convention programs, there's a page that has all the candidates listed and has a photo that they give to us. Again, the photo that we use to promote them on social media, the photo we use in the convention booklet, the photo that they'll have in the resume is their preferred photo. So
make sure that
It's not like an FSA jacket flying headshot, something that they picked in?
it's something they pick, but it's best if they are in official dress for that photo.
Typically, it's like a senior photo of them in official dress.
You can go on our website and see a lot of past posters, so you can get an idea of those designs, and most of the time, those pictures are there.
Go back to
Oh, yeah, and then, yeah, girls have posters. Check out, all the majors have their posters at their cubicles as well. I'm glad the girls brought that note about campaigning. I forgot about that.
Okay, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good. Anything you parents want to add?
I kept giving Sophie ideas, and every time she shot it down, said, "Dad, you can't do that."
I'll just say, they need to utilize their mentors because they really were great sounding board. Taylor had Kirsten, and it was nice for her to be able to just talk to her about anything that she would. She could send her an email, she could give her a call. She was stressed out about something, or I don't know if I like this speech. What do you think? And she'd go through, and yeah, trust me, we heard speeches upon speeches upon speeches. But it was just nice for her to have that. She lucked out that we actually knew a couple other past state officers that she also shared her speeches with, but she always relied on Kirsten, and then Kirsten was great. And all of, Corinne, all of them, they're in that position of being with you during the election, because when it happens, when your child is or isn't elected, you do not know what you're supposed to do, even though they've told you, because you've been sitting there forever.
And we say ask us, but we're not available.
No, they're busy. And we were sitting right behind Mary's family, and, they rush off, and we're still sitting there, and you don't know where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do. And especially being the last one elected, it was even more chaotic. But it was, okay, grab everything. Kirsten was ready. They know what to tell you to do, where to go, and they'll get you to where you need to be. And they'll answer any question. And I know that there's in the past that some of the kids don't utilize their mentors enough. They really do need to, because they're there for a reason. They want to be mentors. They want to help because they've been in their shoes. So they're an amazing resource.
One thing to note that we try to talk to our mentors about, we try to talk to candidates about, but I want you to understand as well that they're mentors. They're not coaches. They're meant to be mentors, and so our whole goal in this process is not that specific mentors get their candidates elected. The goal is never that a specific mentor is helping them write the best speeches or do the best at what they're doing. The goal is that they're going to be mentors, and that they're here for all of these candidates. While Kirsten was Taylor's mentor, we also had multiple other candidates that were sending Kirsten some stuff because their mentor wasn't getting back to them maybe at the time, or they just crossed paths with Kirsten. And so all of these mentors are here for all of the candidates, and it's not them trying to coach any specific candidate. It is they're here for the candidates and their families, and to try and make them as comfortable as possible in the process.
And when Kirsten was backstage to be announced for her team, then another mentor who wasn't backstage or whatever was able to answer questions for anybody as well. They all kind of worked together as a team. It was nice to see.
I just had one more thought about Plan B. We have the kids have a Plan B. I don't know how close your family then, but I know of another family who said when they had and I don't want to say they didn't have success. When they have someone who didn't get elected, they took a family trip at the end of the summer, because they had a chance. As parents, you kind of know, because they were little ones, you figure out what can they cheer them up with. So maybe kind of have a Plan B in mind, or like I wanted to remodel my dining room, and I knew that Miriam would jump into that. And I'm still waiting to get that.
Well, we know what Miriam's doing.
Actually, it was her idea. Because she wanted to remodel when we had to host the previous day off. We got as far as the bedroom. But anyway, just kind of have this in mind, this Plan B, because that was my thought when we were sitting there, and our kids hadn't been elected. I was like, they were sitting down in the hot box saying, okay, we're not going to get elected, let's just enjoy the process. I was sitting there saying, ooh, I got to deal with a disappointed Miriam for a year. What am I going to do? Things in mind. It's not a failure. And, 5 of these kids are going to get elected. They're going to make a great team. The rest of these kids, they've already done this much. Let's see what happens next. But sometimes the parents have to kind of have that a little something to kind of sweeten the pot at the time of disappointment. Every family is different.
So for those livestock kids, we as parents built a fancy new cooler.
You'll be washing that steer by yourself a lot.
Joking aside, but actually I'm looking at this. I was going to ask a question about the resume. So this is very similar to what our kids have done previously at the section level.
Yes.
Yes, the template, there's a template that is in the application itself. When they open up the application, fill it out, and then there's a template on our website as well. Good question.
Watching the election process on YouTube, you learn a lot. I wish I had done that, because I've never seen the election before last year. So I think that would be a very good information. And even watching the kids give their speeches. And, yeah.
There was something that, again, bring up back to last year's parents' meeting that I remember, as it got all done, and divorce was my ex-wife and me down there, and we took Eliza's side where I did after it, and I stood there and I said, you know, you can either do this or you don't have to do it. Because you've gone this far with FFA, it's your decision, and me and your mom will get along, and we'll get you through this if you want to do it. We'll stand on this. If you decide not to do it, that's fine too. So there's going to be a big decision that your kids are going to have to make, and you need to support on both sides, because I know there's a lot of strong FFA influence in this room. You know, history here, and my brother was, my sister is, stuff like that. And just point blank said, after going through these meetings and looking at all the stuff that you're going to have to do in the next year, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. Let's move on and do something else. But they decide to do it. It's a team. Then you get together and you do it together.
That's exactly right.
It's got to be there to advice.
What's that?
It's got to be there.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's what I'm saying. As a parent, you just got to say, it's up to you. And I'm going to stand by. And I know every parent's going to do that, but they need to hear that. Because, you know, it's all this pressure. I've been, section president, I've been this, all of a sudden, I don't want to do this. Maybe my dad, who was a state officer, what's he going to think? No, sweetie, you just do what you want to do. And they also brought up, too, and Eliza's never really had a boyfriend, and there might be some kids out there who's going to run, that they better make sure their significant other, and I hate saying it at 17 or 18 years old, you know, they better understand if their boyfriend or girlfriend gets elected to a state office, you know, they're gone, you know. So I don't know why I brought that up, because she is not, but it's something I remember a parent asking, or there was a parent last year that had a state officer that had a boyfriend or a girlfriend that said, you know, boy, you're not going to see them either, just like we don't see our kids. So
yeah, I thanked Sophie's boyfriend. They've been dating, I don't know at the time, 6 months or so, and I thanked him. He was so supportive, and he's been so supportive, because they rarely see each other.
Right. Yep.
And there are a lot of boyfriend, girlfriends that wouldn't feel the same way.
And to that note, you know, you talked about them, people knowing who they are, being that celebrity, you know, they have a fan base, and so when they have their kids that have crushes.
Yeah.
Guy officers, girl officers, doesn't matter. And there are, what do they call the ones that always want to, like,
Chain chasers.
Chain chasers. They want to laugh on the state officers. I forget. I don't know that terminology. There is some of that, and so that can be hard on relationships too. And so that Friday that we talked with them about all our expectations, we talked with them about that reality too. That we're not saying you can't have a significant other. We're saying, you know, you need to talk to that boyfriend or girlfriend and just kind of, you know, be real with them. That this is what the year is going to be like, and you know, you can't, and you've got to remember that if there's drama there, you bring that drama back to the team, then we all inherit that drama. Yep. And so we, again, never tell them that they cannot, and we never tell them that they can't tell people either, you know. We always tell them, you be honest and be real, because they'll be out on chapter visits, and some say, what, anybody have any questions?
Got a girlfriend? Got a boyfriend?
You know, and some kid's going to ask it. And they say, well, what do I say? And I'm like, be honest with them. Don't make up a boyfriend or girlfriend that you don't have. And, you know, and don't give them your number either. Just, you know, move on. And we coach them through that. But, they, you know, that isn't really, if your child has a significant other, that is a conversation to have with them too. We don't get on that unless you ask it, but I am glad you brought it up, because we haven't had a team yet where we didn't have somebody that had a boyfriend or girlfriend. And what's really crazy is a lot of times boyfriend or girlfriend will make it through the years to state officer, and then after that, not. And it's like, no, we're there. But none of our business. But we're there for that kind of counseling.
Well, if Eliza did have a boyfriend, my youngest would have made that. Because he loves her.
Well, I always told Taylor was, if someone really wants your phone number, I said, you just give them my cell phone number.
You're all getting Dave's number. They can start with you, then they can move on to me.
The other thing we emphasize with them is that what can be challenging and struggle for them is that lines start to blur a little bit between your professional and personal life. Because while you may have a boyfriend or girlfriend back home, or you have this personal life back home, just like everything else in the world is watching, and the world is watching you all the time. So even when they're out on the weekends going to a movie, they're still an FFA member in that movie theater seeing you as a state officer.
Yep.
So that can be a challenge sometimes, because it's a challenge during state office, but it's one of those things the past state officer alumni affiliate actually deals with a lot more, because that actually never goes away. The line to your personal life, it's one of the things that past state officers deal with a lot. They kind of want to shut themselves off and live their own life and not be watched in that way. But no matter where you're at, somebody knows you as a state officer, and somebody's going to be critical of you or criticizing you or looking up to you on that pedestal as a state officer, even in what you think should be your personal life or personal space.
I love it when they go somewhere here in Springfield and they run into somebody that knows them, and that person may or may not tell them, introduce themselves to us, but they'll tell us, and so we'll be like, oh, you're Walmart, Brandon Small. It is a small world, and our staff that lives closer to Springfield, they hear it more than that, a lot. So, yeah, it is the fishbowl thing. Any other questions or comments or any concerns from anybody? I'm thinking the kids should be done. Yeah. Hopefully they're asking lots of questions, or they're thinking,
there's 3 candy books being passed around. Look at any of them if you want to, and you just lay them on the table when you get done. But
thank you for finding those or having your switch. Great idea. Yeah, awesome. Otherwise, once the kids are done, you are free to go and help yourself in the kitchen. We didn't give a formal tour of the FFA Center, but the girls did a great job in the video. But, feel free to walk down the hallway and do the years of officers over the years, or our offices are down this hall. John's here on this very first corner on this end. My office is all the way down on the far end, and in between are Jeanette, our bookkeeper, and then Jennifer Waters, who is our District 3 SCIE program advisor, and then Tammy, Lori, Patty, and Sky are all in this front area here off to the left and right. So I can give a formal tour if anyone would like that. But you can look out the side doors, see the Ramada. I really love their baseball base analysis. It's really good. Especially because, as parents said, they didn't come here to the center until December.
Yeah, Sophie had just relayed, it's just right there, right by the thing, kind of down the street, and in my head, I had her walking a half a mile through some, and then when I got here, I was like, oh, okay. I'm glad you guys got the video.
I'll tell you our big dream. I know our big dream is that someday that we can do renovations to this building and that we have housing for them. And, when our big dream was to have fleet vehicles, and we're here. So I'm not saying how quick we'll get to that big dream, the next big dream, but we not only could save on the housing that we spend at the Ramada, but it would just increase the security piece, and it would give us some peace of mind. The original design for this building did have that on here, and so it's a huge step we have to take, into the future. But I really want to applaud this team for creating that video, and then also even showing you that election clip. Teams haven't done that before, so they were very forward thinking about what they want to share. And as you know, we originally planned this meeting to be in Champaign last weekend, so having it back here is a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Are they done or close to done?
They got a lot of questions.
Okay, well, I'm going to say feel free to mingle, use the restroom, come up and talk one-on-one, whatever you need. But I think we've answered, we may answer all the questions you want to ask out loud.
For everything.
Yes,
Not to be cheesy, but John and I both know that we couldn't do it without our spouses. And what we get from our family, because our kids are all here and they're all hanging out with the officers, and they very much become part of our family. And I'll tell you, the hardest part for us is we're excited to have your kids be our new officers. It's really, really hard letting go of these, and it's hard. It is my first time doing that. It was really hard. I miss them a lot, and we do every year. And so then when we see the old ones, we're like, woohoo, yay! And then the current ones are like, what are we, jumping? So we get very attached, and our kids do too. Well, our kids then get the best mentors ever possible. When Emery rode into D.C. with us this summer, on the way back, she didn't sit with Mark or either one. She sat with Natalie. She sat with Natalie and Abby. She's like, I don't need you guys. I got my own friends. And those are great mentors and role models. I don't know if Colin told you stories about Emery, but we got gobs of Colin Emery stories because they were peas in the pod when we were in D.C. So those experiences are priceless to our kids, too. So we thank them for that. John Luke's got more aunts and uncles than he knows. But we all know his favorite aunt is, so. All right. So, mingle, 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 mingle.